Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes sir. Then again I'm falling. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes sir. Then again I'm falling. Let Jesus work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Oh, work it out. You work it out for Mother Lisa. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes sir. Then again I'm falling. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes sir. Then again I'm falling. Let
All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is David Patrick Harry with Church of the Eternal Logos. And today we have another sponsored stream. This one's going to be a lot of fun. And for everybody who's here, we're going to get a lot of laughs. Major thank you and shout out goes out to Melanie for sponsoring today's stream. And in addition to her sponsoring, I would not have been able to do this stream without her sending me a document of which we're going to use all the links she sent concerning New Age spirit channelers and the alien savior theory regarding Jesus, that he is an extraterrestrial. And we're going to be looking at, a wide variety of nonsense today. That's what I mean. It's going to be quite fun. Of course, some of the major ones, Bashar and Abraham Hicks and all these different people. But Melanie sent me a document with people I didn't even know of. And it's fantastic. Some of the stuff. They're talking about Jesus being from Sirius, others saying Pleiades, others saying he's from Venus. And the list goes on and on. Billy Carson's going to make an appearance, because before we even start getting into the stuff, and most of today's stream is really just going to be going through all the links that she sent me so you guys can see how prevalent this stuff is. And of course, all these people, it's so nonsensical. I didn't even know how to structure the stream today. I went through all the links that she gave me, and I was blown away by what was being said, and that these people have followers. And so this idea is actually quite prevalent amongst a lot of these alternative historians, if you will, these religious seekers, New Age religious seekers, and then these spirit channelers. We have one woman who literally claims that she channels Jesus. And that was another thing I noticed, is how prevalent this is among white women. So I was like I went through all the links, the document that Melanie sent me, and I looked at all of them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, how do we even go about presenting this information? And so I was trying to create a study guide, and I'm like, forget it. The only thing I got, my study guide's only like 11 pages today. And basically all it is kind of giving the context for the rise of spiritualism from the Fox sisters forward in America, and how this really, spiritualism really became a dynamic and significant movement in the American religious landscape. And then talking about like Eric von Daniken's Chariot of the Gods, Zachariah Sitchin and his theory about the Anunnaki, and just given some context for this stuff, because I don't even know where to begin. And each channeler kind of has a different opinion or a different focus. One of the consistent themes, though, is the Anunnaki come up over and over again. This idea, if you're not familiar with Sitchin's idea, that the Anunnaki, this extraterrestrial group of people, they essentially genetically engineered humans so that we could mine gold in Africa, because they needed gold to heal their atmosphere. And that Christ then, in the way that is sort of interpreted, like when we hear Bashar, the Daryl Anka, who channels the extraterrestrial Bashar, And that's why it's going to be fun. We're just going to be watching tons of these videos and looking at these documents. Dan Winters, I remember Dan Winters was kind of tangentially connected with like the psychedelic spirituality, but his whole thing is like the physics of spirituality. He's another one of these guys. I mean, I can't wait for you guys to see his document. He claims that Christianity was basically a political movement by the Roman Empire, totally divorces the first 300 years of church history, and just says Roman K-A, Catholic has to do with the concealing of the alchemy from Kemet, ancient Egypt. What? And his whole theory is that the Roman Empire and the Catholic Church is behind this grand cover up of what Christian. I mean, it's retarded. It's really dumb. This is some of the lower tier quality stuff that you're going to see out there. But again, what blew me away is how prevalent this stuff is. How is it that people actually are falling into this worldview about aliens and extraterrestrials and believing all this alternative history? And one of the difficult things that I began when I was crafting the study guide is like, how do you disprove this stuff? Because it's essentially a non-provable and a non-falsifiable claim. If you claim that Jesus Christ is an alien, okay, and obviously I'm an Orthodox Christian, how do I convince somebody who believes that they're wrong? Well, really, the only thing I can appeal to is the historicity of the church, the apostles, the coherency of theology, but they're not interested in any of that. And in fact, their presupposition is that all religion and all institutions are trying to cover up this alternative historical narrative that they believe in. So how do you even convince somebody? I don't know how to. And that's why this movement, this whole alien savior mythology, is really an eisegetical problem. Remember, I talked about regarding Christian Zionism that exegesis has to do with pulling meaning out from a text, right? Eisegesis has to do with your presuppositions infusing what you read from a text. So instead of you pulling the meaning, you're infusing the meaning. And every person that Melanie sent me that I looked into, every single one of them has a sort of eisegetic trap where their presuppositions inform their reading, and there's nothing that can dispel their presuppositions. And for a vast majority of these people, they claim to have contacted aliens. So, I mean, at least I would say maybe less than half, but around half of the people she sent me all claim to have been abducted or contacted by aliens when they're a child or an early adulthood or something like that. And that the aliens told them. One guy claims that the alien was Jesus, and Jesus told him who he really was and what the real mission was, and how the church is fake, and that it's there to deceive people. And so it's going to be a wild ride today. Again, like I said, the study guide's not going to be super dense. It's only like 11 pages. It's pretty short. I didn't even know what to include because Melanie did such a great job sending me the document with all these hyperlinks for these people. So smash that like. This stream, I promise you, is going to be a fun one. Father Deacon says you can disprove aliens from Tipler and Barrow's book, The Anthropic Cosmological Principle. Yeah, I'm familiar with, Tipler's stuff, though, is, he's one of these cosmic Christ, in line with Teilhard de Chardin, where this Omega principle, the Omega point, he sort of updated that theory. And so I talked about the anthropic cosmological principle in my book and highlighted how this is really, there's not a whole lot to substantiate. He tries to give, Tipler's theory is that when we reach the Omega point or the singularity, that time will be so advanced that we can control time. And in the millimeters, the fractional seconds before the ending of the universe, we'll be able to create essentially our own form of eternity. So cosmic Christ versus Christ the mushroom. Well, we're going to see Christ the alien today, guys. So again, it's like these people are not interested in logic. These people are not interested in anything historically factual. Really what they're interested in is a sort of reconfiguring of Christianity. That was one of the things that was really consistent, is that why is Christianity always one of the primary focuses of these New Age people? So I'm going to begin today in a sort of new framework. We're actually going to watch some TikTok clips and just show you that this stuff is all over the place. And so what I wanted to begin with is really just some TikTok videos, introduce the topic, and then I got my study guide, and then we'll get into all the links that Melanie sent me. Shout out to Siaba for becoming a COTEL crew member. God bless you, brother. Thomas throws in $5, says, I think we're going to need a Woody Woodpecker laugh react for a lot of this. I'm not sure what Woody Woodpecker's laugh is. So you got me on that one, Thomas. An Organized Insanity, been a COTEL crew member for 3 months, says, thank you very much, bro. This makes me feel sane and keeps me informed. Appreciate you and your work. Well, thank you very much, Organized Insanity. God bless you, brother. Appreciate you being here. So, all right, let's pull out some TikTok clips. And of course, the first one that pops up when you go on TikTok is Billy Carson on the PBD podcast talking about how Jesus Christ was an alien. And so I use this because it's very indicative of what we're going to see moving forward, which is essentially the Anunnaki, Zachariah Sitchin's theory about the Anunnaki, ancient alien theories, and then that's reconfigured with basically a sort of Gnostic and Aryan Christology of Jesus, that he's not God, he's just a super intelligent, ascended master, extraterrestrial. And so this is just useful, not because we're going to be focusing on Billy Carson, but just it's useful to show that this is actually out there. And I just put in Jesus alien theory on TikTok, and there's tons and tons of videos, some more popular than others. But, you know, Billy Carson's clips probably have, hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok. The truth about these aliens. And so anyways, we'll get into a little bit of it real quick. Watch a few of these TikTok videos, and then we'll go through the study guide and then dive into everything that Melanie has for me.
Half alien, and I'll tell you why. First of all, in the regular Bible, you discover he's born of a virgin birth, right? But then in the Apocrypha text, you discover that his grandmother was also born of a virgin birth. So it seems like this establishment of a bloodline there specifically. When you read the Emerald Tablets.
So we as Orthodox Christians do not believe that Mary was born of a virgin birth. That's the Immaculate Conception. Obviously, that's more common within Catholicism. This is not a belief that's shared generally within Christianity. But again, this is what these people do. Billy Carson's career has kind of been wrecked ever since the Wes Huff debate that happened last year. But again, they take something apocrypha or something from a Gnostic gospel, something from the Nag Hammadi corpus, and then they use that as a critique to the church to say, well, look, this is the truth over here, and this is why it's not concording with the church because they're well, maybe the thing that you just pulled actually isn't true. So he's trying to make the claim that Mary was also born of a virgin, which again, Orthodoxy, we don't believe that she had an immaculate conception. He's trying to make the claim that both Mary was an alien and Jesus of her descent was also an alien. And then you look at the comments. This one has some critical comments, but I was just clicking on a few of these. It's amazing how many people believe in this Anunnaki theory.
So though, you discover that he talks about he developed the ability to incarnate at will on and in any plane that he desires. That's pretty powerful stuff.
So the Emerald Tablet of Thoth is the hermeneutical lens in which we should read scripture. Huh? What?
Saying he can come back however he wants and when he wants and in any dimension that he wants. He even talks about having rejuvenation chambers, which is what I believe the Serapeum is located in Saqqara in Egypt is one of his rejuvenation chambers, where they would actually create bodies and put bodies in these gigantic megaton stone boxes made of granite and diorite, which are still radioactive, by the way. You can take your Geiger counter, they're still radioactive. They have an energy source coming out of them. And then he said that I would transfer my consciousness from one body to the next. He would leave another body in there rejuvenating for 100 years, and he'd come back and get it, and he'd do that over and over again. And by that method, he lived through eons.
So in your eyes, you think Jesus was an alien?
So Jesus transferred his consciousness, again, because the Emerald Tablet of Thoth said so, to various embodied forms for eons. eons and eons and eons. And that's why he resurrected. That's why he never died, guys. You didn't realize he's just transferring his consciousness.
I think Jesus was happy.
And so that was okay. So that was one. Here's another one by Dr. Greer, you know, the famous UFO guy.
Yeah, the only hardcore thing is that there is a extremely classified document dealing with religion, and it's about that period. But why would there be any classified material?
I'm sorry, this is Bob Lazar, not Dr. Greer. That's another guy.
Material dealing with religion.
I want to go back to the religion thing. I want you to say it.
Oh, come on, that's so weird. That's a lot.
I'm not asking you to say what you believe to be a fact. I'm asking you to say what you read in a report that is distributed at what may be the most top secret facility in the world. Okay, nice.
All right, I'll put it. It's so far out.
All right, your rejection has been noted.
Okay.
What does it say?
That we're containers. That's how supposedly the aliens look at us. That we are nothing but containers.
Containers of?
Containers. Maybe containers of souls. You can come up with whatever theory you want, but we're containers, and that's how we're mentioned in the documents. That religion was specifically created, so we have some rules and regulations for the sole purpose of not damaging the containers.
The souls. Meaning,
well, the souls or the bodies, whatever. That's
meaning like we're containers for souls that they're going to use at some other point.
Right.
And that they had something to do with different prophets and biblical figures.
Yes.
It's like, what?
That supposedly Jesus and two other beings were genetically engineered. They were implanted in people on Earth in biblical times, and their births were closely monitored. Now, just some little connections to that my wife had brought up were in the Bible. They said that the star had followed Mary wherever she went, and that all UFO sightings always start out as people, well, gee, that looks like a bright star, and well, in fact, they said in the Bible, the brightest star in the sky followed her where she went, and just make little connections like that.
Well, there's a bright star in the sky, so it definitely relates to this idea that aliens have created humans to be a container for some type of energy, soul, spirit, and that we then are going to be augmented or used in the future. What? And again, Bob Lazar, I remember somebody mentioned in the chat, Joe Rogan's a big quoter of Bob Lazar. But I remember watching a Dyer stream that he kind of went into debunking a lot of the Bob Lazar stuff. And it's hard to tell whether he was sincere and just was being led or manipulated by the intelligence agencies that were showing him these things, or that he was in fact working for them, but not a credible source regarding any of this disclosure of classified information in the government, and that, there's this really, really secret book about religion. Well, what's it say? Interestingly enough, all of them have to do with taking away the divinity of Jesus Christ, right? Isn't that interesting? We just did a stream on Baal and Moloch yesterday. We've been hitting on a series of different topics, but when we start looking at these pagan cults, or for this and the New Age spirit channelers, notice how the one consistent thread is always Jesus wasn't God incarnate. It's always a sort of Aryan Christology every single time. So that I'm just showing you a few things. Here's another one. This one's got, about 2,000 views here on TikTok.
Was Jesus Christ actually an alien? According to this theory, Jesus' mission on earth went beyond his role as a religious teacher and prophet. Instead, he is believed to have possessed advanced knowledge, wisdom, and abilities that surpassed typical human capabilities. His teachings and miracles were seen as manifestations of his extraterrestrial or advanced nature. Proponents of the alien savior theory point to various elements in religious texts and ancient accounts that they interpret as evidence of Jesus' extraterrestrial origin. They suggest that his ability to perform miracles, his profound teachings, and the profound impact he had on humanity were indications of his otherworldly nature. This theory suggests that Jesus' mission was to guide humanity, elevate our consciousness, and impart advanced knowledge that would help us progress as a species. His message of love, peace, and spiritual enlightenment was seen as a catalyst for human evolution and understanding.
Wow, so profound. And that's another thing I found consistent with all the links that Melanie sent me, is that a lot of this stuff always talks about how, well, the miracles have to do with his advanced understanding of technology, that really what he was doing. And what it wasn't, a miracle. I mean, it was a miracle for the people who saw it. But if you really understood, because I channeled, remember, Jay-Z Knight, Ramtha, I channeled and it said that no, these are actually advanced technologies from the Pleiades or from Sirius or from another star system. What? It's amazing how just a simple question, a few questions. Okay, they question the divinity of Christ. They question, history as the normative narrative that we're presented through, education. And somehow they end in that everything is false. It all is tied with aliens, and anything that tries to contradict that, for example, like a historical claim about, the Catholic Church and the Roman Empire didn't invent Christianity, as Dan Winters, we're going to see, claims, that just nullifies the entire 300 years before the first council. What are you talking about, dude? And just amazing how people who claim to be so sophisticated, so smart, such great researchers come up with such absolutely dumb ahistorical stuff. Like, none of them want to deal with. They all believe that Constantine created the Bible, that the Catholic Church is up to this nefarious thing. None of them ever even mention orthodoxy. Again, it's their superficial understanding of Christianity is just so limited. Here's one with 26,000 views.
One of the weirdest verses in the Bible that I think might be dealing with literal extraterrestrial hybridization and gifting humanity the light back to humanity is actually found in one of the most famous verses of all time, in John 3:16. Check this out. Warning, once you get this, you can't go back. You can't go back to the old way of reading this verse or other scriptures. Once you see how I do this.
Oh my gosh, guys, buckle in. Your faith is going to absolutely shatter after this groundbreaking interpretation of John 3:16. Just watch.
You're going to start doing it every single day, and it will literally change your life. But again, be warned, you have to deconstruct a whole lot and let go of a whole lot of things emotionally, with the way you were raised, with your belief system. So here we go. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Okay, we've all heard that. You probably heard it 1,000 times at church. I know I did. Not only did I grow up in the church, but I also worked in ministry for many, many years. This verse always meant the same thing to me. Jesus was unalived for my sins because I'm a dirty, rotten sinner. And that's why I'm
penal substitution atonement theology. So, okay, he came from an evangelical Protestant faith. Great.
going to go to heaven someday. However, as a fully deconstructed individual, by the way, this is not a religious channel whatsoever.
And check out the stream I did with Jay Dyer, where we get into all these deconstruction my faith, deconstruction my Christianity, and just showed how lowbrow all these people are.
However, I am and forever will be exploring the actual supernatural experiences that everyday people like you and I have all the time, not just reserved for Bible times, but I believe is still happening today. If you vibe with that, follow for more in the series. Now, what I think this verse actually means is hidden within the Greek text. The word Jesus uses for God is theos, which actually means supreme divinity, aka the supreme being or consciousness of the entire universe. Now, this is not unlike the word Elohim used in the Old Testament. However, Elohim is really used for the gods in a lot of ways.
Oh, like the Trinity? 3 persons, 1 essence?
And the word theos is really denoting divinity, either in general form or in the supreme divinity form. And of course, when Jesus used it, he was using it in the supreme divinity form. Here's where it gets weird. He gave his only begotten son. Now, only begotten here does not just mean only like we've been told. It actually comes from the Greek word monogenes, which means one of a kind or unique. The word huion, which is son, actually means kinship. So we can reread the verse as the supreme divinity so loved the cosmos that he gave unique kinship, that whoever believes in himself shall have perpetual life. And
Okay, so you're making a semantic argument by rearranging things and inserting your own meaning. Fantastic. That must mean that Jesus is an alien. What?
him comes from the word auton, meaning the self. One of the weirdest.
This has 26,000.7 likes. Likes. It has 6,370 bookmarks. Like, again, we've all talked about how IQ is dropping for the first time in American history. This stuff is absolutely indicative of it. So we're going to get into a bunch of this stuff, but we're gonna you kind of got the TikTok flavor. So smash that like, guys. We're going to be diving into tons and tons of this stuff. Yeah, it's just wordplay. It's just inserting new variations of words. Of course, it's always in English. It's not like they're trying to reconstruct or really focus on the grammatical sentences in the original Greek, if we're talking about the New Testament or the Hebrew. It's just absolute nonsense. Shout out to Slavrogry, who just became a COTEL crew member. God bless you, brother. Shout out to my brother Charles. Texas Hoosier throws in 5. Said this stuff is so literally incredible that it's hilarious that these people who believe this, though it is sad. It absolutely is sad that this is a real phenomenon. Wait till we get through all these links that Melanie sent me. I mean, these people, like some of these people, like this one woman who, Jay-Z Knight, lives in a massive mansion in Washington, and people just go to her to try to hear her channeling some UFO extraterrestrial who then tells you the absolute truth and mystery of every single religion, everything regarding ancient history, everything that we can't factually prove. And that's the difficult part in actually dealing with this material, is so many of their claims are non-falsifiable and non-provable. They cannot prove the claim to be true. And because it's really just a figment of their imagination, which is kind of the one of the serious points that I wanted to highlight about today's stream, is we as Orthodox Christians believe in the logismy, that the imagination, the mind, is actually the meeting point between us and the other realm, and that demons and angels, but most specifically demons, regarding the logismy, these tempting thoughts, also include these imaginative frameworks where people talking about being abducted and meeting Jesus as a Pleiadian. Like, how do you get into this? This is a fantasy world that people are so absorbed in their own imagination and their own like creative thought that how you can't falsify anything that somebody just conjures up in their imagination. And then because you can't factually falsify it, they say, well, therefore it's true. But then my point is, well, why don't you prove it? Why don't you factually prove it? Well, they can't. The only thing they have in every single instance we're going to go through today, the only thing they have is, well, the channeler told me, or the alien told me. And of course, we on this channel, a la Father Spirit and Bailey, UFO deception, the UFOs, aliens, these are demons. And this is demonic activity. And sure, they may take, fanciful imagery in the ancient period, light shooting across the sky, things like this. Do I believe people witness, quote unquote, paranormal phenomenon? Yeah, absolutely. Do I believe that they're extraterrestrials from another star system, a neighboring galaxy? Of course not. Of course not. And I think you have to totally have bought into this sort of modern cosmology and this new age worldview for these things to even like creep in as believable. But really what's happening, it's an assault on their mind. These people are living in a fantasy realm, and there's nothing that you can do besides when their lives fall apart. Like, I was just tangentially related to today's topic, just looking at stuff. There are instances of people that believed all this stuff, thought they were channeling, And then, of course, some of these people are making millions and millions of dollars. Others, their relationships, their life, their health, everything begins to fall to shit. And then they have to reconstruct their life. And typically that means realizing all this stuff is lies and then moving to something a little bit more concrete. Nick Boosie says, whoa, bro, Jesus was like super chill, bro. Yeah. Yeah. One of the guys, oh my gosh, I got to show you. Before I even give up on the TikTok, I got to show you another one. So if I just put Jesus alien, there was one video that popped up that I'm not seeing on this one. This dude, I thought it had to be like a skit. I thought it had to be fake. Where is it? I was doing a few different searches. Like, let's put Jesus was an alien. I mean, he looks exactly like you would think with the long hair. Oh, come on. Where is it? I don't know. Anyways, I mean, just to tell you what it was, he had long hair, looked exactly like a New Ager, and he sounded just like, he's like, bro, you won't believe it, but Jesus was actually an alien, and I'm going to prove it. And then all he does is like articulate like Zachariah Sitchin's Anunnaki theory and just, parallels Billy Carson. He's like, see, Jesus was an alien. For more information, follow me on TikTok. It's like, who? I thought it had to be a skit, and it was actually real. Oh my gosh, these people are brain dead. Rayinsha Andan says, it is something like Temu version of Christianity. Yeah, it's worse than Temu. I mean, sometimes you actually get quality stuff on Temu. Not that I've ever bought anything, but this stuff is just absolute fantasy garbage. So smash that like. Let me do some quick housekeeping. We're just going to straight into it because Melanie sent me so many links that I want to get through as many as we can today before we focus on anything else. So quick housekeeping. If you want to support my work, guys, please, if you are a man and you're looking for a community of Orthodox brothers, go check out school.com/Logos Academy. This is where we are having our exclusive men's community. It's an Orthodox men's community. We're always doing content, meeting multiple times a month. Got a fitness, spiritual, career, diet accountability group that we do every month. If this is something you'd like to be a part of, again, find brothers that you can actually have these conversations. People are constantly posting it and going back and forth on a variety of different topics. If you want to stay up to date on things that I'm working on, like, for example, I showed you guys my new book cover yesterday. I post all that stuff here in the Logos Academy. So this is kind of the hub. If you want to really go a little bit deeper in many of the topics that we discussed, join the Logos Academy. Also, if you would be interested in sponsoring a stream, a major shout out to Melanie for sponsoring today's stream. You can do so with that link right there. And if you're interested in setting up a one-on-one session where we get into a private Zoom meeting and talk about any topic your heart desires, you can do so right here. If you're an Orthodox Christian man and you're trying to figure out how do I maintain my physical strength and able to hit the gym and work out during the fasting period, I got you. Check out the Orthodox Fasting Cookbook for Strength and Performance by Seraphim Braden Furick, forward by Father Moses McPherson. Again, if you would like to get that, you can get a discount by using my affiliate link right here. And you can get a little bit of a discount. And then you'll have an entire Orthodox Christian cookbook for how do you maintain your protein and nutrition during the fasting periods. I know some people, depending on which calendar you're on, either new or old. So that's another option. If you guys are interested, check that out. Also, if anybody is in the market for Orthodox items, be it prayer robes, incense lamps, books, t-shirts, icons, hats, check out orthodoxdepot.com. Use promo code COTEL, COTEL, and you can get 10% off and also help me and a good Orthodox company here in the United States. All right. So with all that being said, let me just pull up my document real quick because it's not very long. We're just going to quickly go through it, and it just gives you a bit of a framework and a context for everything you're about to engage in today. So I didn't even know where to begin. Normally I have these deep historical frameworks for the topics. We're talking about alien Jesus and New Age channelers today. So I thought, where do I even start? And I figured probably the 19th century spiritualist movement, and how this sentiment and this spiritual disposition and orientation really becomes a major influence in America. And so by the mid 19th century, America and Europe were undergoing rapid industrialization, and traditional Protestant churches often seemed dry or overly rational in the face of death, war, and upheaval. By the time of 1848, we get the Fox sisters. I did a long time ago. I think this is back in 2020, before I did live streams. This was like a pre-recorded video I did talking about New Age channelers and spiritualism. And I went in depth talking about some of the Fox sisters and how they really got exposed for being a hoax, but many people refused to believe it was a hoax. And so this took place in New York. Kate and Margaret Fox claimed to communicate with a spirit through a coded rapping sounds. Their story went viral through newspapers, lectures, and sparking the spiritualist movement. This was a huge phenomenon in America. Again, they were eventually found out to be frauds, but not everybody believed it to be the case. Defining features of spiritualism, mediums conducting seances to contact the dead, which is, again, we're going to see that today. Some of the guys that we're going to be seeing, not only do they claim to channel aliens, one guy claims to channel John Lennon, Mother Teresa, other pop stars, Jesus, the Buddha. And so they don't just contact the dead, they contact what they believe also to be living aliens and extraterrestrials. They often get into trance-speaking mediums, channeling the voice of spirits, emphasis on empirical proof of the afterlife, fitting the scientific ethos of the day. And then, of course, the theosophy of Blavatsky, Helena Blavatsky. This was also a huge catalyst towards the end of the 19th century. And so their Theosophical Society was founded in 1875, again, shifted focus from spirits of the dead to ascended masters. And the reason why I included this is because that's the verbiage you're going to hear over and over today, is that Jesus is an ascended master. He's an ascended master. And really, even some of these people will actually privilege Jesus to be the ascended master. And so they'll refer to him as Master Jesus, and then Lord Buddha, Lord Krishna, Lord Muhammad, and like all the religious figures. So even them in their own weird New Age paradigm, they still have Jesus at the top. And he's considered the ultimate ascended master. But of course, he's not divine. He's an extraterrestrial. And then the entailment is that you are also part extraterrestrial, and Jesus was just here to show you what you can become. So essentially, you are Jesus, and you can become your own Jesus. Jesus is this a historical person who actualized it, but now he's over on another star system. And so it blended, Blavatsky blended Hinduism, Buddhism, Western esotericism, and science. And I'm going to come back to the science thing because I really think that when you start looking at the development of this New Age spirituality, it really kind of shifts through, at least from my reading of it, shifts through a few different phases. So anyways, impact, it created a universalist evolutionary framework. Humanity progresses under guidance from higher intelligences. This is going to be a common theme today. This framework could easily later adapt to UFO narratives. So after Roswell, a lot of this seance and these channelers begin to shift from dead, often famous people or relatives of people who are paying them to channel a relative to extraterrestrials. And that's what I'll get to that in just a second. I think also that maybe some of the cultural crises that face people in the 20th century also catalyzed this. And so my point is, World War I, World War II, it's hard to emphasize how dramatic that was for the people who were living during that period, and the mass death and the new form of warfare at the time. And so it led to a sort of disillusionment and heightened interest in afterlife contact and alternative spiritualities. Science fiction and cultural backdrop. By the 1930s and 40s, pop magazine, early sci-fi radio, the War of Worlds in 1938, primed the Western imagination to expect cosmic visitors, which, of course, in Roswell really set off and was the first major catalyst to this. And then parapsychology and psychic research tried to reconcile spirituality with scientific method, keeping alive the idea of invisible realities accessible through mediums. Post-World War II and the UFO craze, once Roswell hit in 1947, Reports of flying saucer crash created a cultural explosion of people now claiming to see, or even some having been contacted by these aliens. Cold War context, nuclear weapons, space race, fear of annihilation made extraterrestrial saviors or threats believable. Very common during the 20th century that the aliens were going to come rescue us from nuclear annihilation, right? That this was some sort of, once we develop nuclear weapons, I've seen some channelers say, well, actually, you know, the dropping of the nuke in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, this was actually a sort of signaling to the cosmic entities that humanity had reached a certain phase of intelligence. And this now was like a, you know, dung for flies. And the aliens are going to now swoop down from the heavens, and they're going to make sure that we don't kill ourselves with nukes, because we have to sort of be stewarded into this next stage of our evolution. So the cosmos begins to replace heaven as the arena of mystery. And we're going to see that over and over again today. When typically they would refer to heaven, they're going to refer to the cosmos or the universe or a galaxy of something of that. So then contactees by the 1950s, early figures like George Adamski, George von Tassel, Truman Bethurum claimed face-to-face meetings with benevolent space brothers from Venus, Mars, and the Pleiades. These beings preached peace, warned against nuclear war, and emphasized spiritual evolution. UFO conventions and desert gatherings like the Giant Rock in California became the new revival tents. And then the fusion from spiritualism to UFO religion, the continuity is the technique of channeling remained the same. Trance states, automatic writing, direct messages, shift in content. Instead of spirits of the dead, it led to ascended masters, which then leads to aliens as spiritual brothers, space brothers. Why the shift worked? Spiritualism spoke language of the 19th century science, electricity, telegraph, and visible forces. You know, the whole understanding of the ether and stuff like this. This was a major component to spiritualism. UFO channeling spoke the language of 20th century science, rockets, radio, waves, space travel. Each era clothed the same phenomenon, this is my argument, of mediumship and the latest technological metaphors. Right. And this is also what Father Spirit and Bailey claims in the UFO deception, is that that's what the demons are doing is they use the accoutrements of the historical context that people are in to clothe themselves so that people perceive them based on the semiotics that they're accustomed to wherever they are, wherever they're from, and from whatever time they're in. And I think the exact same thing is happening here. Really, the 1960s is the launch of what I would consider the New Age movement. And so countercultural influences, the psychedelic movement, of course, Eastern religions, and disillusionment with traditional Christianity merged with UFO spirituality. We're going to be talking about J.Z. Knight and Ramtha, a 35,000-year-old warrior channeled in the 1970s. She claims that Ramtha is a 35,000-year-old Lemurian warrior. You know, Lemuria and Atlantis. And that for, what was it, 63 or 65 years, we'll look into it, that he was conquering the earth during cataclysmic events, and this is who she then is contacting and gives her the skinny on who Jesus really was. You got Barbara Marciniak and the Pleiadians, cosmic wisdom about humanity's evolution, A Course in Miracles, not UFO, but part of the channeling revival in New Age circles, narrative about Jesus, reframed as a cosmic teacher, one of many extraterrestrial ascended masters. And then you see things we've talked before about the Raelian UFO cult, openly declared Jesus an alien visitor, genetically engineering humanity. Connects back with Zecharia Sitchin and his Anunnaki theory. I'm going to bring that up in just a second. And so my last thing, just as a religious studies scholar, I'd say channeling obviously is not new. You go back to ancient Greece and various ancient groups, they all had these sort of, the Oracle at Delphi. It was common for people to believe in channeling. And like I said, because Orthodox anthropology, I'm not even against the idea that people can be sort of conduits of entities that emerge through their mind. I absolutely believe that can be the case. I just don't see channeling as something that is directly connected to God. And often, if not every time, it's just a demon that's coming through, confusing and confounding and moving people in a deleterious direction for their spiritual growth. So it's not new. It's a perennial religious technique from the ancient period to today. What changes is the symbolic framework, from spirits to ascended masters to or extraterrestrials, and then the accoutrements of like Hubble Space Telescope, cosmic aesthetics, and then of course always focused on the latest advancements in technology. So where did this Jesus was an alien idea come from? Ancient astronaut theories, 1960s, 1970s. Eric von Daniken, The Chariot of the Gods. I remember first coming across it was like the History Channel documentary with Eric von Daniken. And I was an undergraduate in college. I had just finished my math final. I had come home. I remember again, back then I told you guys I had a terrible, during college, really got into the marijuana. Do not advocate that. But I remember it was hitting my wonny, and I watched the history documentary. I remember it was going over the Nazca lines. If you guys have watched The Chariot of the Gods, these Nazca lines are these shapes that appear in the Peruvian desert of like spiders and monkeys and birds. And the whole claim was that they can only be seen from an aerial position, and therefore these things predate the invention of the airplane by the Wright brothers. Therefore, they must be signs directed for aliens. And I remember watching that for the first, whoa, dude, the Nazca lines? I didn't know anything about that. And so Daniken claimed biblical miracles were misinterpreted encounters with advanced extraterrestrial technology, a la what I just laid out. Jesus was sometimes framed as an advanced cosmic visitor, ascended master, whose miraculous powers were of alien science. Again, what did we just see with Billy Carson? It's the exact same thing, right? Jesus is transferring his consciousness from body to body to body. He's existed for aeons. He's still here with us. This has to do with advanced alien technology and the reincarnation of the spirit. No, dude, this is all 20th century stuff. Although mainstream scholars rejected these claims as pseudoscience, the idea gained enormous popularity in pop culture. We talked about some of the people who claim that they contacted aliens. Why do people believe such things? Again, this is my personal opinion. You can't prove why somebody believes something, but as I said, it's the semiotics as they change, I think for some people become more believable because it relates to their contemporary period. One of the commonalities is the distrust of institutions. You're going to hear people often talk about how organized religion is a man-made institution to confine you and limit your spiritual progress. So many New Age adherents distrust organized religion, especially Christianity. Casting Jesus as an alien allows them to keep him as a spiritual guide without submitting to the church or its moral teachings. This is a way of what I would say domesticating Jesus into a safe, non-threatening figure, because the true Jesus, God incarnate, if that is true, there comes a series of consequences that you're going to have to change if that is actually true, which of course we all believe. But for them, if you domesticate him, as I'm saying, is if you make him sort of an Aryan alien, Aryan meaning he's not fully divine, he's a created entity, it sort of domesticates him, but then you can say, actually, he's the highest of all ascended masters. So you're able to kind of keep him around as a spiritual guide, but yet you've taken away the actual claims he's making in the New Testament. Syncretism, universalism, to harmonize all religions into one cosmic truth. If Buddha, Muhammad, Krishna, and Jesus are all ascended masters, then saying they're extraterrestrial envoys fits that scheme neatly. It flattens all distinctions. Jesus is no longer unique, but simply one of many. Of course, the Gnosticism, this pursuit for hidden knowledge, technological age, and Jesus as an alien savior fits the hope that science and technology, rather than divine grace, will ultimately rescue humanity. And this is why a lot of these people are really not fully against transhumanism, because they believe that technology is going to save us. Ascended master theology that gets into theosophy. We're not going to focus too much on it. Again, this will be available over at the Logos Academy and on the website. New Age theology of Jesus as an alien, higher dimensional, ascended master framework, overlay with World War II UFO culture. Christ consciousness really gets developed after the 1960s. Here's a few examples of these UFO cults. The Unarius Academy of Science, 1950s, taught that Jesus was one in a line of great cosmic teachers from other planets. Ruth Norman claimed to channel Jesus and other masters as extraterrestrial intelligences. The Raelian movement, we mentioned that, teaches that Elohim, aliens, created humanity through genetic engineering, again, a la Zechariah Sitchin. Jesus was one of their prophets. Course in Miracles, Pleiadian Ashtar commander channelers. Many claim Jesus was connected to Galactic Federation. We're going to see that over and over today. The Anunnaki mythology. So where does this come from? In Sumerian, the Akkadian and Babylonian texts, the Anunnaki were a group of gods associated with the underworld and the divine assembly. They were not aliens in the ancient sources, but deities tied to fate, kingship, and judgment. You know, you hear Billy Carson always talk about the Enuma Elish, Enuma Elish. Of course, again, his career is basically wrecked because it turns out the guy's an absolute fraud. And you know, not a serious thinker. I'm going to try to refrain from too many ad hominems today. But the gold mining element. So nowhere in the Mesopotamian myth does it explicitly say humans were created to mine gold. This is the claim of Zechariah Sitchin, whose 1976 book, The 12th Planet, invented the theory that the Anunnaki were extraterrestrials from the planet Nibiru. They genetically engineered humans as a slave race to mine gold. Gold was supposedly needed to repair their planet's atmosphere. And then, again, I'm not here to appeal to consensus or to appeal to authority. Those are logical fallacies. But just noting, there are no credible academics or serious scholars that support Sitchin's argument, his translations, or any of his claims. So it's really the only people that uphold it. Just like when we talked about Jesus as a mushroom, when I was on the Jay Dyer's channel, there aren't really any serious scholars. It's really just the myth that's perpetuated within the psychedelic spiritual milieu, the culture, the groups of those people that engage in that community. You know, John Allegro's work is not substantiated by any other scholar, and other people who even wanted to tried to. They couldn't substantiate it. So Zechariah Sitchin's influence, he reframed Mesopotamian gods as aliens, just as Eric von Daniken reframed biblical stories as UFO encounters. This supplied a deep history for alien intervention and human evolution, giving UFO spirituality a mythological backbone. And then, you know, we're going to listen to Daryl Anka today, who channels, you know, he goes by the title Bashar, a prominent New Age channeler. In his framework, Jesus is recast as an advanced extraterrestrial who incarnated on Earth to elevate consciousness. Of course, we talked about Billy Carson. He's just popularizing Sitchin's work for a new generation. He's really not this original scholar he claims to be. It's really just a repackaging of von Daniken and Sitchin, and just trying to, you know, put that in conversation with contemporary cultural events. And so Orthodox refutation, again, this is about the end of my document here, is Christ is the uncreated logos. In Orthodoxy, Jesus is not just a being among others, even advanced beings. He is the logos of God, begotten and not made, the eternal word. Any alien, no matter how advanced, is still a creature. So that theologically just doesn't correlate. Incarnation in human flesh, resurrection versus technology. We believe that it's a grace-filled mystery. This isn't some sort of alien technology regarding resurrection and the transference of consciousness, as we're going to hear. And so it's like, as Orthodox, how do you even approach unprovable claims? And here's what I thought of, sort of historical grounding, at least of the opponents and the proponents of the alien savior theory. Our opponents as Orthodox Christians, they really have no historical grounding for anything they're claiming. It's just a narrative. It's just it's a narrative reframing of history, but there's very, very, very little actual historical or archaeological evidence to support any of it. We actually have historical and archaeological evidence and theological and traditional evidence to support our claim as the Orthodox Church. So alien reinterpretations are anachronistic, projecting 20th century sci-fi categories onto first century text. Philosophical coherence. So as an Orthodox, how do you debate these people? I think one of the only things you could appeal to is a sort of philosophical coherence of a paradigm. Not that these people are interested in that. They're clearly not. But claims must be internally coherent. If Jesus is an alien, he is a creature, cannot be worshipped without idolatry, anyways. Theological integrity, criteria of truth and orthodoxy. We have apostolic witnesses, scripture and tradition, consensus of the fathers, lived experiences of the saints. By these measures, the alien Jesus thesis is a novelty without roots. Orthodoxy measures new claims against the mind of the church and finds them empty. So how do you prove an unprovable myth? Their argument today about the alien Jesus is historically groundless. As I said, there's no ancient text that calls Jesus an alien. The alien Jesus narrative only appears in the 20th century. Philosophically incoherent. If he's an alien, he's a creature, but if he's a creature, he cannot be eternal logos, worshiped from the beginning. Not that they would probably concede that and say, well, yeah, he's an alien. But I just point that out. Theologically insufficient. And psychologically revealing. People accept such myths because they are drawn to hidden knowledge, to reinterpretations that bypass the authority of the church and become UFO, aliens, and modern archetypes of transcendence. Thus, it reveals more about modern anxieties than about Christ. And so my point here is that basically we see this approach toward hidden knowledge as a remnant of Gnosticism, him not being God, remnant of the Arian heresy. And that the alien Jesus myth is just a modern recycling of these old heresies dressed up in scientific sci-fi imagery. So that's a little bit of my document today. Again, if you guys want that full thing, go over to Logos Academy, and you can get access to all the study guides regarding all the different topics that I've done. Let me just see real quick. Looks like Little Heatbox throws in 5, says, do you have any reading recommendations on Trinitarian/Christian metaphysics and ontology, or any church fathers that speak of these topics? Specifically on metaphysics, obviously I don't want to sound like a broken record, but Man in the Cosmos, this isn't bad, with St. Maximus the Confessor. Of course, the Cosmic Mystery of Jesus Christ is really going to, if you want metaphysics, the Cosmic Mystery of Jesus Christ by St. Vladimir's Press, that's a great work. I know. I don't. I mean, if you just read the church fathers, you're going to find plenty of stuff on the topic. Read the councils if you want to read about the Trinity and the Trinitarian formation. I'm thinking. I think empirical dogmatics is good if you really want an academic approach. Metropolitan of Nafpaktos, Hierotheos, he has a book on empirical dogmatics. Really good stuff. I recommend checking that out. I don't know. I bet some people in the chat probably have some good books that maybe they've checked out. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to metaphysics or a fuller articulation of logos, you can't go wrong with St. Maximus the Confessor. So thank you, Little Heatbox. Do appreciate that. Let me see if anybody else sent in any questions or comments. Brendan throws in 5 and says, aliens are a distraction from the real evils here and now. Broadly speaking, I think a lot of things work that way, though. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I mean, that's one of the interesting things, is that none of these people have any sort of claim to a universal morality or ethics, and yet they're always talking in very moralistic and ethical terms. I think that's one of the ironies set forth. But yeah, it is a distraction, and I think more of this UFO stuff is going to be coming forward. So I think honestly, this is going to become more popular, as we saw with was it Paula Luna, the Congresswoman, I'm talking about. She was on Joe Rogan. I saw a clip where she was claiming that she saw evidence of UFOs in one of her classified documents planets or something like that, or spacecraft that wasn't built by humans. I'm totally skeptical on all that stuff. Don't believe it. Don't believe in extraterrestrials. Don't believe we've ever visited by aliens. I don't even believe aliens exist personally. But I think as this narrative goes forward and the government keeps putting it forth, it's going to become more and more popular. Oh, Orthodox Boomer Grandma, thank you so much, Alexandria. She throws in a generous $20 and says, God bless you and Jenny. Union of All Icons is paused on making icons, but we still have a bunch of Father Luke Dingman's work in inventory. Excuse me. We'll be making Daniel Ogan icons soon, Lord willing. Well, great. And I always say the icons, I've got 2 icons from the Union of All Icons by Alexandria. They are a fantastic quality. I highly recommend it. But I just got a text that I guess there's a new alien show on Hulu as well. So like I said, I think this stuff's going to become more and more popular. Thank you so much, Alexandria. God bless you and your husband and the family. God bless all your guys' work. God bless the Union of All Icons. If you guys want quality icons, I do. I mean, all these are Union Uncut Mountain supply. And I have 2 that Alexandria sent me, and they are fantastic quality. I actually love the Union. There's a texture to it. Like, it's a beautiful gloss that they use on their icons. God bless you, Alexandria. I love the quality of your guys' icons. So God bless you. All right. Now let's get into all the things that I want to share with you today. Again, major shout out to Melanie for sending me all these links. I'm not going to be showing you the document she sent me because she didn't send it to me for it to be public, but I'm going to read you each thing that we go through, and we're just going to look at some of these things. So first one here, we're going to move over to Galactic Anthropology. And what we're looking at here is a woman called Elena Dannon, and she claims that Jesus is from the planet Huvid, an intergalactic civilization called Huva, although she does say that some people say he's from Sirius, and they're not wrong, either because Jesus was an Anunnaki hybrid, so his biology is linked to Sirius, and she says, make it make sense. Ironically, she has a page on her site debunking other channeled messages, of course, but she claims all her channeled messages are telling the truth. And when you click the links that she sent me, this is the first one that comes up. On Jesus, Jehovah, the Huva, and the Theuba. And so
And how about Jesus?
Check this out.
Jesus, do you know where he came from?
Yes, it's an intergalactic civilization. They are called Huvid or Huva. And I don't remember quite well the name of the galaxy. It's just numbers, you know.
Different galaxy. He came from
Different galaxy.
Oh.
Yes, he was part of the Cedars.
Oh, okay. Oh. So
he's from Huvid. They're Huva. And then this, I don't know if she's Native American or East Asian. Oh.
So he came as a human body, but he used to be the Cedars. I mean, he is the Cedars, but he came into a physical body in order to.
Yes. And there are some theories or people saying, no, he was from Sirius. But they are not wrong either, because Jesus was an Anunnaki hybrid. So, and this branch of Anunnaki came from Sirius B. So his biology is linked with Sirius B, and that biology, and that's not wrong. It's right that way. Also.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. One of the things we're going to be doing, though, is doing a lot of word search today. So a lot of these links are like almost blog posts like this. Some have videos in them. And so I'm going to go through and kind of show you stuff that it says about Jesus. Jesus' soul from the intergalactic star system Huva. After Elena said that she didn't know anything about the origin of the soul of Jesus' mother Mary, Mariko asked her if she did know the origin of the soul of Jesus, and Elena Dannon gave a positive answer to that. Listen to her talking about this. The fact that she names the Huva or the Huvid is interesting in various ways. In an earlier article, I reflected on the links between the Huva, as they are mentioned in the intergalactic cedar race in Elena's third disclosure book, and the Huva as they are described in The Only Planet Choice by Phyllis Schelmer. I also added the Hebrew people to this mix. Here's Dan Winter, and he's gonna pop up. We have our own links on him. Some of you guys may be familiar with him. He does the whole spiritual physics stuff. But here's a little video.
Specifically, if you look at a very famous French book, it's called Thiuba, and it's about an abduction to the planet Thiuba, which we later hypothesized is Thuban in Draco, which they say is one root of the word Yehovah, Yahweh, Thiuba, and it basically old Draco, and that at that time the Draco were androgynous.
Wonderful. The Thiuba. So Dan Winters introduces the Thiuba from the French contactee Michel Desmarquet. We have written quite a few articles. Okay, here we come to Jesus. Well, having said all this, we might listen to what the Thiuba have said about the soul of Jesus. They claim that Jesus' soul originated from their world. The Thiuba, which might just be the same place that what Elena describes as the Huva, what also adds credence to this, a lot of credence, is that Michel Desmarquet talks about in an intergalactic base in his book. Oh my gosh, this is really credible because somebody else who claims they're contacted by aliens talks about the intergalactic base in their book. The close-up view on this panel was replaced by a wide-angle shot, allowing us a general view of the command room of the intergalactic base we have seen earlier. Gosh. Elena says that Jesus would have half Anunnaki genes from the Anunnaki branch that belonged to Sirius B. In webinar 2, Elena seems to imply that the other father, half of the genes of Jesus, were the result of in vitro fertilization, and probably with additional Huva genomes in order to be able to better house the Huva soul from Jesus. The Thiuba have a different take on this. They say that Jesus' embryo was full-blood Thiuba, Huvid embryo, which was placed in Mary's womb, Mary being just a surrogate mother. And this is what is so mind-blowing, is they think this stuff is way more credible than if you just actually believe the literal interpretation of Scripture. Yeah, Charles says their brain got hoovered. Yeah. I'm telling you guys, we're going to see tons of this stuff. Shout out to Melanie. I didn't even know this woman was. So without Melanie sending me leaks, it would have been hard for me to track this stuff down. Yeah. Mary had IVF. Kendra says, hi, it's Gina from church. Oh, hi, Gina. Charles and Kendra are friends from my Orthodox parish, fellow parishioners, and their daughter Gina's with us. So shout out to Gina. God bless you, Gina. Good to see you here. Mr. Fista throws in 5, says, Huva, isn't that a vacuum cleaner? Yeah, that's what happened, as Charles said, to their brain. Somebody sucked it out of their skull. Okay, so that's the first one. Here's the next link that Melanie sent me, and this is Galactic Gospel with Elena. Jesus is the head of the Galactic Federation. And we're not going to, this is an hour and 27 minutes long. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but we're going to allow her to just speak a little bit.
I call it upstairs. Ask us to be patient, to keep fighting. What means keeping fighting? Keeping doing what we are good at to help them, because they are putting a lot of their lives at risk and they are fighting very hard to save us, save us. What we need to do to help them is to keep up.
By the way, in regards to the bio here, it says, obviously it's a French woman. At the age of 9, Elena was abducted by gray aliens and rescued by benevolent aliens from the Galactic Federation of Worlds. She kept contact with them all through her life until today, and she wrote a book about all her experiences and close contacts, A Gift from the Stars. Find it on Amazon and in Barnes and Noble.
A vibration high, not be subject to fear, because fear is the tool of the dark controllers. Fear no more. Fear is not part of your world, of the world you want, and anyway, it is not getting at you.
Right.
Keep on, unite, refuse to enter in conflict with your brothers and sisters, humans. Refuse. This is very important because they try to divide people to control them. Keep quiet, keep calm.
Anyways, I'm bored already. I had to click through this and listen to some of it in preparation. I forget where exactly she starts to talk about Jesus. It's all over the place. And this primeminister.com, this black guy is also part of this group. Let's go. We got tons of links to get through. Let's go on to the next one. The next one is the family of Tegeta. Have you guys ever heard of this? I was not aware. So this is familyoftegeta.com/Jesus/ scripture decoded. Melanie sent me that they believe that Jesus is a human incarnation of a Pleiadian soul of light from Merope named Sonata. So much BS on this site, I don't even know where to start. And so here we go. Let's find Jesus. Gospel of Thomas. Okay, so a Gnostic gospel. They're referring to a Gnostic gospel. There's a book removed from the biblical canon. It was never in the biblical canon. And the Gospel of Thomas, I've done multiple streams talking about it, even debunking it. The Gospel of Thomas is arguably one of the most popular of the Gnostic gospels. But even secular atheist scholars who have tried to date it say it's between the 2nd and 4th century. So there's no way that it's even it's not even a 1st century text. And this is the oldest of the Gnostic Gospels. It was never part of the biblical canon. It has a totally different Gnostic Christology. The elites needed people to be fearful of God, which allowed them to maintain authority as intermediaries to God by any means necessary. The Gospel of Thomas is one powerful example of Yeshua's teachings, which explains the true power that humans have. Here you go.
Look at what the Lost Gospel of Thomas says. It says, when you make the two, thought and emotion, one. So the Gospel of Thomas is talking about thought and emotion. It's saying when you make your thought and your emotion one, look at what happens. You will say to the mountain, mountain, move away, and the mountain will move away. It's saying that when you can marry your thought and your emotion into one single potent force, that is when you have the power to speak to the world. But they still haven't told us how. How do you do this? That's the next piece. In the early Christian Bible, your Bible today, there is a passage. How many have heard, ask and ye shall receive? Have you heard that before? Ask and ye shall receive. Have you heard that? I know people that ask and ask and ask and nothing happens. Because the asking is not done with the voice. The asking is not done, please, please bring this to my world. That's not asking. To ask, we must speak to the field, to the divine matrix in the language that the field recognizes.
And so just FYI, we're going to be getting into Abraham Hicks. And she uses this same exact framework, but she frames it as the vortex, right? And this is basically a manifestation, understanding of spirituality. You know, you guys probably have heard about The Secret. Remember, Oprah promoted this in the early 2000s. The idea that you can manifest your desires. And for them, they're saying, well, this is the sort of spiritual key, right? You just get all the goodies that you want. All you have to do, you just have to line up your thoughts with the emotional vibration inside your body. And if you do that strong enough, well, then it's just, that's just a cosmic law. You're going to get whatever you want. And of course, so many people have paid Abraham Hicks and these people that give this sort of prosperity, manifestation, spirituality, and new age context. And, you know, it doesn't work. And it's convenient because if it doesn't work, they can just say, well, do you truly believe it? Are you really elevating your vibration? No, you're not. Okay. So Yeshua becomes Jesus, the original name of Jesus. And you always see what's with all these, whether it be Hebrew roots or, you know, all these people, they always want to refer to Jesus as Yeshua. It's like, guys, it's just a linguistic difference. It's a different language. It's okay to call Jesus, Jesus, right? It doesn't make you more profound to call him Yeshua. Pronounced Yeshua or Yehoshua. The name Jesus comes from the translation in Greek and into the English. Yeah. Okay. Star seeds and spirit guides. You are from below. I am from above. You are of this world. I am not of this world. Yeshua. That means he's an alien. No, maybe it means he's God incarnate. Father and he. In Aramaic, Yeshua called God Aboan, birther, source, not Abba, father. This small mistranslation, again, it all gets into like this wordplay that, of course, they're not very good at. Son of Man prophecy, one of Yeshua's prophecies. I don't know why it's white. Yes, one of Yeshua's prophecies was about the Son of Man. In terms is used in ancient writings to refer to supernatural beings like angels. Son of means like, and man means human. So Son of Man means like a human, because he's not human. He's an alien. Yeshua said that before his return to earth, humans would see many signs, including the Son of Man arriving in the glory of the clouds. The Son of Man is described having white hair and holding a symbol of 7 stars. In this context, he's talking about the Pleiadians in Galactic Federation being seen in crafts before the shift. What? And then rapture shift. So they even incorporate dispensational theology. Again, we just did a stream on Darby and the origins of dispensationalism. This is a 200-year heresy. Yeshua prophesied that he would return after a great tribulation and that in the twinkling of an eye, we will be changed and, quote, see as we are seen, unquote. He said that a paradise of many mansions awaits where the lion lies with the lamb. All these things were spoken in words that people could understand at the time. He was teaching about what Pleiadians... Did you guys see he was talking about the twinkling of an eye? And you will see as we are seen. It's the Pleiadians called the event or the shift. It describes a moment in the future where some will ascend to a version of earth without evil, sheen, while others will be left behind while the earth gets darker. Oh, wow. And so it goes on. Anyways, they always have the Gnostic theory that Jesus had like in like carnal love and carnal romance with people. Again, this is just not ancient Gnosticism. Jesus fell in love with Mary Magdalene. She was not a prostitute, as reported 200 years later when the decision was made to start a religion concerning the life of Jesus. What? That is not, again, these people have, you'd think for somebody so interested in Gnosticism, like I was one of these people that was like obsessed with Hermeticism and Gnosticism. And during my master's program, we studied early Christianity. But I was not this ignorant regarding church history that I would just say 200 years. What are you talking about? It was 300 years before the first council. What are you talking about? And Rome and Constantine made a decision to create a religion. What about all the martyrs? What about all the churches? What about the epistles? Right? I'm Antiochian. What about the church in Antioch? What are you talking about? All that stuff existed before Rome converted to Christianity. It's so stupid. She was beautiful with long black hair. Anyways, the decision was made. The life of Jesus. She was his love. She was beautiful with long black hair. She was also a Pleiadian soul named Nashia. Well, how the hell do you know that she was a Pleiadian soul? They incarnated together to teach of the divine connection of all life. Nashia is presently incarnated on Earth and is also known in history as Lady Nada. Oh, wow. They agreed with prophets of older generations that stated, we all are gods. Jesus explained that the birther of the cosmos was everything. As people listened, they began to soften and change. They were hearing about a God that loved them and lived within them, not on a throne in the sky that was ready to torment them. Jesus taught of unconditional love and the connection of life that is infinite. Oh, God. All right, so you guys get it. You guys get it. This is Family of Tegeta. Their blog on Jesus. Okay, next one. Let's go to Dan Winters. So here's Dan Winters. This is the guy that does the spiritual physics that I was talking to you guys about. And oh, I didn't realize I still had something up. Sorry about that. My Tech 23 throws in 5 says, who's on first? Jesus. Who's on second? Spirit. Who's on third? The Father. Nice. So Dan Winters here, let's go put in Jesus. Jesus. This is great. This is great. So he's claiming that Jesus, this whole thing is claiming that Jesus is not a historical person, that this was just made up, that he's, this is made up by those ridiculous people that call themselves Christians and totally misinterpreted scripture. But he's got the real hermeneutic and exegesis for us. And so if you go down here, and let's see, here we go. So this is Dan Winters writing. And so the question was, did Christ come to be our savior? And if so, do we follow him or his teachings as Krishna's, Buddha's, and Christ's teachings all calibrate at 1,000? Talking about like this Hertz energy and these frequencies and stuff. Here's Dan Winters. Even though millions of confused books obfuscate the truth, in fact, only a small amount of clear study would prove there is no historical existence of the person you call Jesus or the Christ, which again isn't even the common sentiment amongst atheistic scholars, right? So the vast majority of atheist secular scholars believe that Jesus was a historical person. Right? They don't recognize his divinity. They're not Christian. They don't believe in miracles, but the vast majority of scholarship believes he's a historical person. So Winter is already out on that mark. Out of this myth is the angry result of the Roman government's decision to create a state religion by merging the most politically in favor religious myths of their day. This was done mostly to reduce the expense of babysitting religion wars. This is why it was called Roman Catholic. You see it? Roman Catholic. They combined some stories about a Jewish rebel and some Egyptian personality worship around the remnant of the Akhenaten Tut story. Lawrence Gardner has adopted this story from the scholarship in Out of Egypt, House of the Messiah, Copper Scrolls, and to some extent Bible fraud. Okay, all non-credible, alternative historical, alternative biblical narratives. The real core of the myth reduces to the intent behind the Eneki genetic, whom you later called Ra, and as in Abraham, father of all religions. Well, he's not the father of all religions. Eneki's genetic design radiated from the Paltau Ophinum pot, intent to provoke a humanoid remnant with enough psychokinesis to survive the Orion machine cult war. This is more believable. This is supposed to be more believable than just believing the Bible. Oh my gosh. Okay. Return to Enki as such, the person you dump so much personality worship upon would definitely not welcome that parasitic approach. As for the high genetic charge you associate with the Christ myth that radiates largely from the blood behind Tut, Moses, Akhenaten, that is real. But that is rooted mostly in the Syrian genes behind the top Enki family, who did and do love the family they helped create here. Enki came here because his family had a nasty genetic problem. What? Bliss ignition and gravity makes us dying in their genes. This fallen condition was named Nephilim. He was mostly a pawn of the galaxy wars of his day, and rather a klutz of a genetic engineer. The primary interest is the resultant hominoid family you call Adam and Eve, which he sired was one, the vital force of the Cro-Magnon egg he raped to put in his half-sister Draco, and two, he used his own sperm. So from that perspective, the Orion Borg encoder Enlil and Bible code Aster hierarchy cult, ours, became an illegal gene pool, inviting change instead of a stasis they define as weak, something they were determined to kill. Terminator has some truth. Gene pools bred for harvest are not invented to inhabit and steer their local stars. Like, what? What? Good Lord. And so she said that Dan Winter says Jesus was a Syrian prince and an androgynous Draco, but also that Inky is Jesus. His stuff is off the charts loon material. Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, next one that we're going to get into. This is Michel Desmarquette. You heard me mention this in the study guide. In his book, he says that Jesus originated from Theuba, which we heard in the first one with Elena, Dan, and the French woman. Originated from Theuba, and that Jesus's embryo was a full-blood Theubia. Some confusion and conflict with Dan and Winter here. He says that Thubia is the correct name for Yahweh, but we've all been mispronouncing it. And so then if you click the links, this is the first link she sent me. And it talks about how Theubia is the most common word in the Bible. It names the angels who turned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into the Dead Sea, helped Moses lead Hebrews out of the Egyptian slavery, and who gave Moses the 10 Commandments 3,300 years ago. Michelle's journey took place by a so-called transubstantiation, which involves leaving space-time and returning to it elsewhere in our galaxy. The book Theubia Prophecy contains Michelle's detailed account of his journey. This book clarifies practically all myths and mysteries on Earth and reveals clear logic, beauty, majesty of the universe, in which every one of us has an important role to play. There are no theories in this book, none whatsoever. These aren't theories. No wishful thinking or products of imagination of the author. This is an exact witness report of the reality of the universe. No matter how much we insist defending our current beliefs, doctrines, and traditions, nothing can change the truth and the order established in the universe. Rivers will always flow from their sources toward the ocean, even if a religion, a sect, or billions of people want to believe the opposite. Okay. And then the second link that she sent me is this one right here. And so this is a book. This was, what is it, like 100 and some pages, 160 pages. And so I, again, just doing a word search, Jesus. We'll go down here. The arrival of the Messiah. Jesus, born of the Virgin Mary via a controlled implantation facilitated by extraterrestrial beings, was intended to deliver a message of love and spirituality. The angelic announcement and the guiding star were manifestations of advanced technology rather than divine supernatural acts. The life of Jesus, contrary to popular belief, Jesus traveled extensively and lived a long life, marrying and having children in Japan before dying there. So shout out, guys. If you didn't know, Jesus died in Japan, you know, and there is an area where, again, local Japanese mythology claims this. And just doing an internet word search, I found a Smithsonian Magazine article, The Little Known Legend of Jesus in Japan. Again, no evidence to substantiate this whatsoever. It's just a local myth that a farmer fell in love with a Japanese daughter, and he lived there till the age of 106 years old. They built this sort of shrine to him, and now Christians, like 20,000 Christians a year, go here. Like, here it is. Every year, 20,000 or so pilgrims and pagans visit the site, which is maintained by a nearby yogurt factory. Some visitors sell out the 100 yen entrance fee at the Legend of Christ Museum, a trove of religious relics that sells everything from Jesus coasters to coffee mugs. Some participate in the Springtime Christ Festival, a mashup of multi-denominational rites in which kimono-clad women dance around the twin graves and chant a 3-line litany in an unknown language. The ceremony, designed to console the spirit of Jesus, has been staged by the local tourism bureau since 1964. Wow, that's old. 1964. And one of the scholars, I think it's a Princeton guy, said that, again, not believing, he doesn't believe that Jesus is actually there or ever was there. He said, that is it. You can have it all, talking about how eclectic the Japanese are. He says, you can have it all, a feeling of closeness to Jesus and Buddha and many, many other divine figures without any of the obligations that come from a more singular religious orientation. So anyways, that's where that come from. The nature of Christ, the being known as Christ, called Ariok, was brought to earth by extraterrestrials and took on human form for the mission. Jesus possessed knowledge of his life path, but underwent significant suffering due to human limitations and societal ignorance. The purpose of his miracles was to validate his message of love and life beyond earthly existence. Critique of organized religion. Oh, that's going to be good. The narrative addresses the corruption and manipulation of spiritual truth by priests and leaders throughout history. It critiques modern sects and religions as often being based on control and exploitation rather than the genuine teachings of love and spiritual evolution that Christ advocated. Conclusion: this chapter emphasizes that true spiritual understanding and evolution lie within the teachings of Christ, distorted over time, originally aimed to illuminate his path. And again, this whole book just goes on and on and on. If you guys want it here, I'll share that link for you guys. I mean, this is just total madness. Total madness. So there's that link if you guys are interested. You guys have any questions or comments? John Kell just sent in 20 over on Dono Chat. Thank you very much, John Kell. He says, God bless DPH. Yeah, thanks. I need it. Covering all this material. I mean, my gosh. Shout out to Melanie again for helping me by making the document. I was stunned by everything that she sent me. So we're going to move from this guy. The next one is a gentleman named Daniel Scranton, who says that Jesus is part of Thymus, the collective of ascended master, and is part of a 9D Arcturian council. He spouts a load of BS about Christ consciousness. He also channels the 12th dimensional non-physical collective known as the Creators. And this is him right here. No, that right here. So this is Daniel Scranton. China out, definitely go sign up to his master course. He's going to teach you how to channel entities, the resurrection of Yeshua. See, we see this again. They never just want to say Jesus or Jesus Christ. They always want to say Yeshua. Thymus, the collective of ascended masters, channeled by Daniel Scranton. Wow. This is cool. Wow, so cool. And so when we talk about ascension, we're talking about resurrection and transformation. And that is what Yeshua wanted for himself in his famous lifetime and for all of you. Yeshua wanted other humans to follow his footsteps, but without the martyrdom, without the crucifixion. That's the whole point of being an Orthodox Christian, is the martyrdom and the carrying of one's cross, the crucifixion, in order to follow Christ. So they just say, yeah, this is what he wanted, but all the other stuff he said about following him and picking up and carrying your cross, no. That's just misinterpreted. Now he had completed his teachings and completed his mission in every life that ends, because the purpose for that life has ended. And so he chose to check out in a very dramatic way that would lend all of the speculation of who he really was and is. He wanted people to see that there is no death, that the consciousness cannot be destroyed, and you cannot destroy an idea either. His teachings still live on, and they live on because of their profundity and because he chose a dramatic end to his ministry. Now, as your soul, you can inhabit any body you want to, and you are choosing lighter and lighter bodies as you go to represent the evolution of your soul, the evolution of your consciousness, and the direction of your focus. As you focus yourselves into higher and higher states of being, higher and higher vibrations, and you allow yourselves to become your fifth dimensional higher selves, your resurrected, ascended selves. Remember, that you resurrect every morning when you wake up into your body, and you get to decide who you're going to be on that particular day. You know what? I feel like a black queen today. What that lifetime of these 16 or so hours is going to be about. And then again, all this stuff. Check out my Patreon. Sign up for a personal message from your spirit guides. Buy my books. You want to learn how to channel entities? So that's Daniel Scranton. Next guy is George King. George King. And he is part of the Ethereum Society. He believes Jesus was an extraterrestrial being from the planet Venus. Was founded in the mid-1950s by an ex-taxi driver, King, who says a voice told him he was to be an earthly representative of an interplanetary parliament. The voices also come from Mars and Jupiter. Uranus is the mother planet. Venus sends missionaries. Mars makes the flying saucers, and Jupiter sends out the vibrations. And we don't have anything. I mean, I don't even want to go through. This is his website. This is this guy. Master of Yoga, Dr. George King directs spiritual energy into a spiritual power battery at Lake Powell, USA in 1973. It's like, what? Master of Yoga, Dr. George King. It is said that when the student is ready, the master appears. This master would serve as a source of truth, guidance, and universal love, someone who could help on our journey to God realization. And this is this group that follows him. Teachings, doctrines. Yikes. Next one, Jordan Adamski. You guys, I'm sure, are familiar. This guy right here. Polish-American author who became widely known in ufology circles. In some degree in popular culture after he displayed numerous photographs in the 1940s and 50s that he said were of alien spacecraft, claimed to have met friendly Nordic, alien, and space brothers. And so Adamski claims he met Orthon, a Nordic, and they took him to Venus, where he said his late wife had been reincarnated. And if I go here, right here, check this out. In his 1955 book, Inside the Spaceships, Adamski claimed that Orthon arranged for him to be taken on a trip to see the solar system, including the planet Venus. The location where Orthon said the late Mrs. Adamski had been reincarnated. He claimed that in another voyage, he met the 1,000-year-old elder philosopher of the space people, who was called the Master. Adamski said he and the Master discussed philosophy, religion, and the Earth's place in the universe. Adamski said he learned that he had been selected by Nordic aliens to bring their message of peace to Earth people, and that other humans throughout history had also served as messengers, including Jesus Christ. Adamski further claimed that aliens were peacefully living on Earth and that he had met with them in bars and restaurants in Southern California. Oh, gosh. Next person is George Van Tassel. George Van Tassel. And so, no, that's not it. So this is George Van Tassel. No, that's George Adamski. This is George Van Tassel. And this is a document from the FBI. So Jesus, according to Van Tassel, was a spaceman. At his birth, a spacecraft stood by, and that's the Star of Bethlehem, according to this guy. Also, when he resurrected, he was retrieved by a transistor beam. Also, Mary was a space person, and he's written a ton of material, and you'll find an FBI files on him on archive.org. This is the file. On archive.org. So here, him talking about Jesus. Jesus said, "My Father and I are one." That was because he recognized no rich or poor, no boundaries or colors, no church or religion. What? How does him talking about him and the Father are one has to do with their essence, the connection in nature? How does that have to do with no boundaries? He remained neutral at a division point between the contrasting dualities. Jesus didn't take sides with anyone. That is why he was worshipped by one side and hated by the other. And so he's talking about how the world is duality. This is an FBI document, by the way, on archive.org. This is from the FBI Bureau here. And then here's another section on Jesus. The law of reaction will cancel every destructive cause. Apply sun principles on planets, and the reaction will make the planet a sun. Who escapes? Only the people who are with God in the middle. How? They will be taken out into space by the race of man in their spacecraft. These are the people God created. Humans are the materialized egos of themselves. How do I know? God told me, and the man called Jesus told me, and the people who landed their craft took me aboard told me. So how do you know all this, George Van Tassel? Well, God told me, Jesus told me, and the aliens that came and visited me told me. That's how I know. Oh, wow. Wow, that's really profound. Thank you for that, George. I mean, this stuff is just absolutely ridiculous. And so here you get into the Federal Bureau article, and it says here, on November 15th, 1953, Van Tassel, writing in proceedings, stated that Jesus Christ was born of spacemen, that the Star of Bethlehem was a spacecraft that stood by while Jesus was born of spacemen. Mrs. Van Tassel advised on August 24 last at 2 a.m. her husband was visited by a person from outer space in a flying saucer, and they talked together for about 20 minutes before the spaceman went back into outer space. She quickly pointed out that she slept through the entire visit and did not see the spaceman. As the Bureau is aware, there are numerous individuals operating in Southern California under the guise of religion or religious cults with a prophet or director who have a certain emotional appeal. So the FBI was worried this guy's going to create a cult. Anyway, that's George Van Tassel, if you guys hadn't heard of him. Next one is Orfeo Angelucci. He made a few trips with alien entities. One trip, he told that Christ had been an infinite entity of the Son who had become flesh and blood and entered the hell of ignorance and woe and evil due to the compassion of the world's suffering. And so let me pull up that next one. So we're going to exit out of here. We're just going to go in order. Here's the next one. And I'm going to exit some of these so my computer doesn't start freezing up. Okay. So this is Orfeo Angelucci. I do not want to borrow this book. Okay. On page 358 is interesting. Actually, the whole book is in. Okay, let's go to 358. Oh, it's limited. Okay, so we're not going to be able to use this one. Okay. And then it gets into his Wikipedia. Let's see if there's anything on Jesus. He was an American author, lecturer, and one of the alleged UFO contactees who rose to prominence during the 1950s. Angelucci claimed that he had experience with extraterrestrial beings. He lectured extensively on the subject of his extraterrestrial encounters during the 50s and 60s. Angelucci's alleged UFO encounter has drawn significant interest due to the sheer religious symbolism and spiritual imagery contained within. While his story was delivered in good faith, some doubted the... Yeah, I wonder why. The secret of the saucers, the Son of Sun. In his book, The Son of the Sun, Angelucci relayed an account he alleged was told by him by a medical doctor from Seattle known as Adam. The narrative supposedly addressed the same entities and ships as mentioned in The Secret of the Saucers and was a blend of romanticism and otherworldly themes. One report of the initial interaction between Angelucci and Adam states that Angelucci was encouraged to partake in psychoactive substances part way through their conversation. So was Adam an FBI agent? Was this an MK Ultra operation? I was meeting with this guy and he's like an extraterrestrial and he told me to take LSD. And that's what I did. And Jesus is actually an offspring of the sun. Another person that we don't have a link for, but Truman Bethurum met Captain Aura Rains, a Clarionite from Clarion. She instructed Bethurum to gather around himself some friends, particularly those with money, and establish the Sanctuary of Thought, a cosmically inspired commune dedicated to peace and brotherly love. Next one is Dorothy Martin. She practiced automatic writing. Martin claimed to be receiving messages from superior beings from a planet she referred to as Clarion. The book Aboard a Flying Saucer by UFO contactee Truman Bethurum above described his alleged interactions with beings from the planet Clarion. She went on to believe that she was receiving messages from a high-level spiritual instructor called Elder Brother and other spiritual beings called the Guardians, who were living on planets called Clarion and Ceres. Her main sources of messages came from Sonata, who she understood to be the contemporary manifestation of the historical Jesus. And theosophical concept of Jesus and theosophy as the Ascended Master teachings. There you can see a little bit of that. And then Aboard a Flying Saucer. This was the book. Here's Truman Bethurum. Was one of the well-known UFO or alien contactees who gained notoriety during the 1950s. He was most known for his 1954 book, Aboard a Flying Saucer, and also founded the group Sanctuary of Thought. We just mentioned that. Let's see if anything has Jesus. When prophecy fails, a social and psychological study of a modern group that predicted the destruction of the world is a classic of social psychology by Leon Festinger, Henry Riken, and Stanley Schachter, published in 1956, detailing a study of a small UFO religion in Chicago called the Seekers that believed in imminent apocalypse. The authors took a particular interest in the members' coping mechanisms after the event did not occur, focusing on cognitive dissonance between the members' beliefs and actual events. All right, now I want to get to Daryl Anka, your guys' favorite Bashar. Here is Daryl Anka talking about Jesus. The first one, though, I want to play this one. So check this out. This is the truth. So we're going to play a couple of videos. This is a guy named Daryl Anka. I've talked about him before in some of these New Age channeler streams, and he claims to channel an alien called Bashar, and says that Jesus did not intend to create followers. Funnily enough, Bashar did not realize Jesus was quoting Psalm 22, lots of rubbish about the Anunnaki. Jesus is a hybrid ascended master, blah, blah, blah. There's quite a bit of on Facebook about Bashar and his opinions on Jesus. So we're just going to watch these two videos.
From the New Age, found Jesus and everything, and now they cast everything aside that is not Jesus. So everything is...
And they don't actually understand Jesus. Because there have been many misinterpretations and misrepresentations and misunderstandings about what Jesus actually said and what he was all about, because a lot of the dialogue that came from him and others around him have been altered for the purposes of political power and certain kinds of gain, and therefore you don't really have an absolutely thoroughly accurate representation of what was really said at the time. Plus, in not understanding Jesus in the full capacity of his expression, then many people who purport to understand him or purport to believe in him actually have no understanding of the fact that he was presenting both a male and a female aspect in the Mary of the Magdalene. This is a couple. This is a male and female representation in balance, and many of the things that were actually talked about are extremely metaphysical and not exactly what the idea of the Christian belief system purports to be true.
Got it. So more...
So definitely believe the guy who claims to be channeling an alien. I mean, it's just so unbelievable.
This is hard for me to ask, but more, okay, so more like, how you've said the Magdalena things and more of the Essenian stuff and the Rosicrucian stuff is a little more core.
Even there are misinterpretations in those. It is more the pure idea of the understanding of the balance between male and female in the expression of Yeshua and Maria, or Mir.
So Jesus was here to actually unite male and female energies and was symbolized by his romantic love affair with Mary.
The Magdalene.
So more just the simplicity of harmony between the sexes.
Yes.
Okay.
And the idea of the understanding of both sides' connection in balance to all that is, and the expressions thereof, many of which are very familiar now to those who have listened to metaphysical concepts in your modern age.
So right. And so here's the video that she sent me.
Some of the extraterrestrials that Moses interacted with were the idea of the Anunnaki attempting to correct what the original group of Anunnaki caused by the creation of Homo sapiens on your planet, and attempted to guide and preserve certain genetic lines that would allow for the eventual evolution of the Earth into the sixth hybrid race. Some were not Anunnaki. We have been asked this question before, and we are not allowed to discuss that race. The idea of the light is simply the light from a craft.
That the topic of the Anunnaki we've discussed is an out of bounds question, because they have made a treaty in the Galactic Federation that we are not to talk about that race. Jesus, as part of the Anunnaki, came to unite male and female energies, was a member of the Anunnaki race, but we cannot go into details about that. We can only say that he is one of the Ascended Masters of the Anunnakis, who are members of the Galactic Federation, who came here to elevate human consciousness.
The energy from a craft landing on the mountain that interacted with Moses. The idea of the burning bush, again, a holographic projection of energy that was interpreted as fire. Similar in many ways to what people on your planet have been experiencing today as orbs of energy, orbs of light.
It's Sam Shamoon theology. It's the orbs of light. This is Sam Shamoon theology. These are the angels. This is the orbs of light are alien messengers coming to contact you to signify you are on the right spiritual path towards ascension. And you truly are a son of the Galactic Federation.
So interpreted in an old-fashioned way, because that was all that was understood. Energy at the time was not understood in the way you understand it now scientifically. Therefore, it was perceived as a fire, when all it was basically an orb of glowing energy to represent a communication modality, a probe.
Literally what I said. The orb is an alien communication modality so that you may know where north is in regards to your spiritual ascension.
That would allow for communication to occur between the extraterrestrials and the individual experiencing the idea of the burning of the orb. It used the idea of a bush kind of similarly to the idea of anchoring it to a spot, like an antenna.
So you've mentioned before that if we...
I'm not even going to go into what I was going to say about the bush. I'm not even going to go there about speaking to a bush, and maybe one very different from Moses. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be a bigger man, and I'm not going to stoop down to that level.
If we were to time travel back in time, because our frequency is much higher now, that we would glow if we encountered the historical beings.
You would appear to them to glow, yes.
Yeah. So did Jesus appear to glow also?
From time to time, yes. This is what is usually referred to as the transfiguration in your religious doctrines. The idea that he was perceived as being surrounded by a glowing aura.
And this person is saying, I'm left with the distinct impression that virtually all angels described as light beings that came from the sky and the stars in most religious doctrines are actually highly advanced aliens from other civilizations that have visited Earth. Is that
not
correct?
all, but most? Extra dimensionals, extraterrestrials, beings of higher frequency, but sometimes spirit beings as well that can manifest themselves to appear as if they are physical when they may not.
So it's a docetic understanding. So their human appearance, it's just an appearance. That's not really who they are. Shout out to Brady Harvey. Thank you so much, brother, for the $5 super chat. Says, I don't know, DPH. All these Gnostitards say Yeshua. It's pretty convincing. Yeah. It's almost just an immediate red flag if you're talking to anybody about Christian theology and they just refuse to say Jesus and say Yeshua, because it just comes with like this condescending, pretentious undertone that I don't refer to Jesus as Jesus. That's English. I refer to him as Yeshua because I have gnosis. Yeah. Have you even studied the Gnostic Nag Hammadi corpus? I don't think you have. Have you read the Gospel of Mary? I don't think you have. It's so pretentious. Like it's just a different language, guys. You can say Jesus. It's okay. Oh my gosh. I know the same that says overstand and understand. I know it's Savan Bomer. Are you guys familiar? What is what's the name? I need to do a debunking of Savan Bomer and his group. I forget what they called their university or their group, but he always says understanding. It's understanding. You guys heard of Savan Bomer? Yeah. Bro, do you even have Christ consciousness? Because if you did, you would know that you say Yeshua so that everybody knows you're a pretentious ass. Okay? So if you don't know that, then I don't want to hear it.
So it's a variety of things. Yes.
Okay. And this person's asking about ancient Greece. I'm currently being taught in universities that Hera was oppressed in relation to Zeus and that women were not respected in ancient Greece or any other parts of the world. My intuition tells me that's wrong, especially since there were like temples to Hera and things like that. So did the ancient Greeks truly view Hera as a goddess?
Yes. The idea again represents the struggle that humanity has gone through with regard to the idea of the balancing of the male and female energies. Now, yes, you are correct. This is not true at the time for the entire planet.
We're not going to go through this whole video. I am going to skip forward, though, to the section on unity through archetypes and divine perspective. Let's hear it. Let's hear it from Daryl Anka, who's channeling Bashar.
Good day. This transmission is called the Archetypes of God. And what we mean by this is you have many names for the idea of what you call God. God, goddess, Allah, Jehovah, Tetragrammaton, the light, the I am that I am, Wakantanka. It doesn't really matter what it is that you use as a name to identify the concept of all that is. But it is important to understand that all of these names represent different archetypal expressions, different angles and different perspectives of the same one thing, so that all of your apparently separate religions, no matter how they present themselves, no matter how many symbols they use to represent the idea of God or aspects of God, are all talking about the same thing, but from different points of view. that serve the uniqueness of the culture in which they live. But the idea is to understand that it all comes from source, it all is within the light. And the light, source all that is, expresses itself in all these ways in order for there to be sufficient symbols for all the different cultural experiences on your planet, all the different individual experiences, even within a culture on your planet. As we have said, the misinterpretation of what you have called, in one particular Judeo-Christian culture, the Ten Commandments, are really the messages that were delivered in a very different way that have been misunderstood, misquoted, because of the level of understanding that existed in the culture at the time. And the so-called first commandment, I am the Lord your God, thou shalt not have false gods before me, really was a mistranslation and a misunderstanding of the idea that really would be more accurately represented as, I am that I am, and all reflections are me, therefore none can be false before me, for I am all that is.
And this is why that directly contradicts the idea that the God of the old Bible, first commandment, is that you shall worship thy God and not idols. But from another perspective, the idea, because everything I'm saying is just an idea that I've created through my fake channeling of Bashar, is that you can actually worship various idols because he is, I am that I am, and every idol is really just the same God. These people are so ridiculous.
So the idea is to understand.
There's another idea. How many times does he say idea? He wears a Hawaiian shirt. He wears a Hawaiian shirt in every single one of them. I've never seen a video of this guy not in a Hawaiian shirt. Mr. Fista says, come on, at least this guy looks exactly like you expect him to. It's true. That is true. Very, very true.
That all that is presents itself in a variety of archetypal forms. The father energy, the mother energy, God, goddess, all that is, as you sometimes say. And these serve various functions and translate into your reality as, shall we say, smaller representations of all that is that are specifically designed to deal with specific cultural differences, specific ideology.
I just can't. Okay. We're done with Daryl Anka. This is just it's too much. Too much. A little annoyed with it. It's just, how many times does he say idea and it doesn't go anywhere? Like everything he says, it's like just such general statements. It can be interpreted in 1,000 different ways. He's never making really any claim you can like hold on to and debunk. It's just general statements, very general. Another guy, Claude Virilhorn, set up the Raelian movement. Virilhorn claims to have met a diminutive humanoid ET. He alleges that he was one of Elohim, the ET scientist who created humanity. This is the article we're talking about. The Elohim are not gods. He was told, although they are our creators. Voralhan was named Rael, light of Elohim, chosen by the Elohim as the prophet of the age of apocalypse. Rael claims that in 1975, he encountered the Elohim a second time. They took him to the Elohim home planet and to a second smaller planet nearby, the planet of the Eternals, where he met Moses, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, and Yahweh. Oh, boy. And that's, this is just talking about some of these different groups. But this is specifically about the Raelian movement right here. Claude Bourrelhan. So again, absolute crazy stuff. Here is Ruth Montgomery. Here's Ruth Montgomery. She channels extraterrestrials, says that she was Lazarus's sister. Lots of stuff about reincarnation. This woman claimed she was Lazarus's sister. She passed away in 2001. Later in life, she transitioned to a career as a psychic and authored a number of books on metaphysical and New Age subjects. The polar shift of the early 21st century was among many predictions made by a spirit guide group from whom she regularly translated messages. She was a biographer of paranormal medium Jean Dixon and protege of Arthur Ford. So here is her talking about and predicting the Antichrist. Predicting Antichrist, Part 2, Ruth Montgomery. Among several of her books written in the 1960s was A Gift of Prophecy by Jean Dixon and her famous prognostications. In that book, Ruth claimed that she herself had no prophetic capabilities. A meeting with Arthur Ford changed all that. She became fascinated with the world of the paranormal, New Age religion, psychic phenomenon, and contact with spirits. She produced a series of books by automatic writing. Anywho. Okay, next one. Let's get into somebody juicy. This is Debbie Solaris. Debbie Solaris. This is her Instagram page. This is a woman. You got 50,000 followers on Instagram. This is her Instagram page. Galactic historian, Akashic channeler, intuitive ET contactee, helping others identify with their star origins and soul purpose. Contact me. So this is this woman right here. And so she claims that Jesus was a composite soul of Syrian and Pleiadian ancestry, with his mother Mary being a Pleiadian ascended master and his father Joseph coming from Sirius. And here's the video.
We go along with the Egyptian story, you're going to see Sirius being brought up over and over and over again, because I would say that was the main star system that had the most influence on Egyptian culture. But we also see influences from Orion and even a little bit from the Pleiades. Syrian extraterrestrials were visiting Earth.
It's towards the end where she starts to talk about Jesus and Christianity. So we're going to flip forward here.
So you see this separation also with Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, and what their belief systems were.
Mother Magdalene, I've read that she was like even an initiate of Isis and Horus on energy. So then when she did meet with Jesus, they were able to do these practices that enabled him to become his light being.
Absolutely, yeah. I kind of see Mary Magdalene as being kind of a representation of Syrian energy or divine feminine energy, but that of the highest order of the dark, okay? Which is not necessarily a negative thing, it's actually, and Jesus was like the representation of Syrian energy of the highest order of the light, okay? So again, it was trying to integrate the light and the dark, and that's why I think they were such a, powerful couple. Mary Magdalene was maybe an offshoot or a reincarnation of Hathor, and Jesus might have been a reincarnation of Horus. It was the same entity, but it was being in different bodies maybe, and that's why you see this played out in different culture. There's many layers of the story of going into the darkness and then coming back into the light. An archetype for how a lot of us go through the process of ascension, that we go into deep darkness and then we work our way out of the darkness into the light, which represents ascension. And I think Horus actually represents our illuminated self. Okay, so it represents this when we become well integrated souls and we're able to integrate the masculine and feminine, the dark and the light, very effectively within our own spiritual evolution, we become the archetype of Horus.
Wow, Jesus is just Horus, and Mary Magdalene is Hathor. Whoa, guys, did you not know? Here's another guy. Craig Lefebvre has channeled messages from, I told you this earlier, archangels, Mother Teresa, Saint Germain, Metatron, the Pleiades, John Lennon, Tesla, and Einstein. You know, I wasn't able to find what exactly he says about Jesus because I didn't buy his book, but here's an interesting take on ETs and angels. I watched this earlier. Basically, they're just saying that angels are a form of extraterrestrials, but they're kind of on a higher order. And so I'm not gonna bore you fully with this one, but you guys can see right down here our Angels ETs Paranormal Podcast special episode, Blue Star Prophecy with Craig Lefebvre. I'll give you a little snippet.
She had contact with aliens, and in a mountain somewhere in, I forgot, Colorado, I think. And one of the ETs she mentioned was, again, a large praying mantis. So
amazing. So they're talking about these ETs that are being contacted, that according to people that they trust. It's funny. Why would aliens look like praying mantises? It's almost like people are so uncreative. They just take, insects and make them extraterrestrials.
So are some...
They are their own unique.
This is him talking about angels being a sort of higher order of aliens.
Thing. They are their own species. They sit outside in their own realm, outside of what the ETs are. They are two different universes apart. People will experience higher loving energies from these ETs that are, fifth, sixth, ninth dimension, and they can feel angelic to you because you are sitting in basically the basement of energy, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. It's washing over me. I feel enlightened. That's great. But angels are angels. They do their own thing. Their focus is here on earth and in helping humanity. So they kind of operate on their own timeline, so to speak. And when they showed me, periodically they show up, but they brought me into this dream, and I was walking with two other people, and I was walking through this town that was like haunted, and it looked dark and scary, and I had to go into this building. And so I go into the building, and my angels are there, and I stand barely 5'6", and I was at their chest height. They were a lot taller than me, and broad shoulders, and they had this kind of almost peach colored skin, like tannish peach color, and they had these really intricate clothing on where it was
Okay, I can't listen more to this guy's fantasies. Now we're going to go to the very, very popular and wealthy Abraham Hicks. She's one of these, like, again, prosperity manifestive channeling gurus. You guys have probably seen her before. The whole thing is about the vortex and getting in your vortex, and then you can accomplish whatever it is that you want. So here we're just going to put in Abraham Hicks, Jesus. What most people get wrong. I love this.
With who you. Sorry. My question is when you said when you're lined up with source energy, you croak, you die, you're in the vortex.
So vortex is like this energetic field. The idea is that, just like we watched earlier in one of the other channelers, you have to align your thoughts with your emotions, and then by that you naturally attract the things that you want and desire because you resonate at the same frequency that they are in. That is like that is the underpinning message of all of Abraham Hicks stuff. If you want to know what she looks like, this is what she looks like. And so it's like her and her husband travel around. They are incredibly wealthy from all the different stuff that they do. And again, for her, that just proves that she's in the vortex, right? She's getting exactly what she wants. Okay. No, Jerry Hicks died in 2011. I was not aware. So I guess she's just by herself now. Okay. So she narrated and appeared in the original version of The Secret, as well as being a central source of the film's inspiration. Okay, so here she is talking about Jesus, telling this woman's like, I don't know, I'm just really spiritual, and I just feel so drawn to Jesus, and I just want to know, like, how does that relate to the vortex? And here's Abraham Hicks.
And if you're in the vortex, then there would be nothing beyond that. Please tell me what happened with Jesus, because there is such controversy. He was in the vortex and he was done and he never came back. And I just have so many questions. I feel so connected to Jesus in a way that I can't explain, that my heart sings, and I don't know what that's about.
Well, we have some questions for you about that. Do you believe that, first of all, does it resonate with you that you are an eternal being?
Yes.
And do you think that's true of Jesus?
Absolutely.
And does it make sense to you that even though you're here in this physical body, or even though he was here in a physical body, does it make sense to you that the larger part of you is non-physical?
Yes.
Does it make sense to you that while you are in your physical body, you have access to all of that?
Yes.
Does it make sense to you that while you're in your physical body, you, by virtue of what you're thinking, could be in or out of the vortex? It could go either way, and that you have control over it. Does it make sense to you from the scanty part of the story of his life that you have actually been able to hear? Does it make sense to you that he was not so different from you in the sense that there were things that he focused upon that took him into the vortex and allowed the clarity? In other words, when you sat before him dripping your illness and he held you as his object of attention, he did not allow himself to see your illness. Instead, he knew the wholeness of you because he was in the vortex where he could see all that you had become. And he trained himself not to be distracted. Do you think that he was always that way?
So you see the eisegesis I was talking about in my opening monologue. Eisegesis is you're putting your presuppositions onto something so that you can reframe it, reform it, and draw new meaning out of it. She's interpreting the entire gospel of Jesus from her theory about this vortex and manifestation. And that's that then now encompasses her entire articulation of Christ.
Why? Do you hear the story of how he left his village and went somewhere they knew not where and was gone for some period of time? Do you know where he was?
No, where was he?
He was off learning how to get into the vortex. He was off learning how to meditate. He was learning to control his mind. He was distracted from the trauma of his village, off to himself, turning into the vibration of the wholeness of who he is, so that from inside the vortex he could see the wholeness. That's why when he returned, while he did not always stay in the vortex, once he integrated back into his society, he had trained himself so that he could predominantly be in the vortex. Do you think he was in the vortex the day they nailed him up?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, what's your guess?
No.
Is that not a powerful message that he would bring? In other words, if you could hear...
Don't you see that Jesus was crucified because he was trying to show you like what happens when you don't align your thoughts with your emotions and really elevate your energy? Don't you see that was the educational message he was trying to show you? If you're not aligned, the Roman Empire and the Jews are going to kill you. Duh.
Hear him, what he was saying is, I'm not different from you. The kingdom of heaven that you are all looking for over here, over here, over here, over here, over here, over here, isn't over there, isn't over there, it's over here. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It is a vibrational place. You tune into it. Everyone is an extension of it, you see. When you wait for him to come back, do you understand that that's what is flowing to all of you. In other words, it's physical humans who stand outside the vortex and write this stuff always get it wrong.
I wish.
Very helpful. Did he resurrect, like come up back from the dead, like the Bible says, or did he pull a?
Take my money. I just want to be aligned with the vortex. I just want to see the second coming of Christ when I'm fully immersed in the vortex and every single thing I want just comes to me. Take my money. Please just take my money. Thomas said this is why Paul commanded women to be silent and listen. So we all just start vibrating. That's the meaning of life. Well, duh. How else are you going to get the things that you want? Don't you know that Jesus, he lived in the vortex. He is the vortex.
Fast one and go down the aisle or down the alleyway and somebody took his place. I'm just really curious.
He reemerged into non-physical, as each and every one of you will. He became source energy, as each and every one of you are. Reemerges back into physical experience, as each and every one of you are doing. In other words, he was not an anomaly. He was not an anomaly, and yet all the things that you want to believe about him are accurate. In other words, but they are accurate of you as well.
Thank you.
Wow. Oh my God. Did you hear Abraham? She just told that lady that Jesus is everything that she is. Oh my gosh. It's so spiritual. Wow. Austin DeTulio throws in 10. Thank you so much, brother. He says 31 minutes left to reach the goal. Guys, help me out. If you appreciate some of my content, thank you so much, Austin, for all that you do. Help me reach my goal today, and I will annihilate Jim Bob in the competition of who can yell goal longer. We are going to, we need to make that a competition and see who can actually do it. I'm saying I can beat Jim Bob. But thank you so much, Austin DeTulio, for the support, brother. Oh, Abraham Hicks, that is so incredible. I'm going to cry. Jesus is in the vortex? Oh, let's hear about the distortions about Jesus.
On the floor, but if Esther had been in the room with them, she would have had the experience of levitation with them. In other words, you have to be in the vortex. You have to be up to speed with who you really are, you see. And so what Jesus's primary message was, is that he was the extension of source energy. It was translated in many different ways. It's translated that he was the Son of God, eventually the only Son of God. In other words, it got more and more distorted.
Eventually? He eventually? What? That's right there in the scripture. What are you talking about eventually? See, it's like the Roman Empire when they created Christianity to appease the masses 300 years after Christ. And there was like no Christians before that. The Roman Empire just created it. And he's just been distorted. And then they said he's the only Son of God. Well, that's not true, because you and I, we are daughters and sons of God. We are in the vortex. We're going to be in the vortex.
As time goes by. But there was nothing that he was saying then or would say to you now that is different than what you are hearing here. And you can tell by the resonance that you feel within you when you find a piece of something that the source within you agrees with. We are not wanting to go back into history and rewrite any books. It's not necessary.
That's literally what she's doing. Yeah, you don't write a book. You just pretend to channel an alien and talk about the vortex and source energy. You are rewriting history. As we saw with Dan Winters, he claims that the Roman Catholic Church invented Christianity 300 years after Christ. These people are idiots. These people are literal morons. You know, God bless them. I hope they come to Christ. I hope they begin to, wise up. But if there's any takeaway from today's stream, it's that, wow, people can be really, really dumb. Thomas throws in $2, says, hit the goal, hit the goal. Thank you so much, Thomas. Truly appreciate your support, brother. God bless you.
we want you to do is to find the feeling place of where you are, acknowledge that there is a larger part of you that you have expanded to, and then feel yourself into resonance with who you are. We want to empower you to your own guidance system. And when you do, while you will continue to love and appreciate this one that you know as Jesus, you won't hold him on a pedestal that you have not yet achieved. You will see him as a partner in creation. You will feel the equality of that which you all are. You will feel the fullness. You will never really know who.
See, you won't have any suffering or any problems if you're in the vortex. So if you're struggling because you've been diagnosed with a terminal disease that really just came from all the chemicals that are surrounded us in our water and our food, well, that's because you're not in the vortex, sister. Get your energy up, sister. Get your energy up, and you won't have that stuff. You are not in the vortex right now, and I'm disgusted. I can't even look at you because you don't even reflect the image of Christ, because you're not in the vortex. Get in the vortex, sister. Jeez Louise.
I found Abraham's teachings, and I grew up in a Christian background where my dad is an evangelist. And so the subject of Jesus is very confusing to me now that I know what I know.
Why? Is a receiver of source energy?
That is what I understand now. Yeah. What I was taught is that Jesus was literally the Son of God, came to earth, lived a perfect life as our substitute, died in our place so that we can have eternal life if we perceive him to be our way.
All right, take it one step at a time and let's clarify it. He was what?
Son of God, which I believe we are as well.
An extension of source energy.
Yes,
that's another way. Yeah. Did you realize how many times it was translated? It's a wonder any of it makes any sense.
Yes. Yes.
And what else? What next?
That he came here and his intention or his mission from heaven or from source was to, because we are all depraved from the moment we are born into this sinful nature world, we need saving. That Christianity. It's not me. I've been trying to figure it out my whole life.
But if you just a little bit give them the benefit of the doubt, because within that statement is also a scenario that goes something like, realized that there was not as much joy and love as is possible, not so different from what we're talking about here today, that life can be better, that there are laws of the universe that once understood, you can, in other words, it's not so different. And what else?
I guess where I would lead to is...
But we want to hear the rest of because you gave quite a scenario and we want to work the bugs out of it just a little bit.
The thought process which I had been adopting was that this is who Jesus was and that we were all sinners needing saving.
Or that through meditation, and you know that's what happened, he found relief, like our friend earlier when he got hit on the head, and wanted others to find the same relief. That's the saving part.
That's not the confusing part to me.
And then?
The part that's confusing to me is that he had to die in our place and that somehow he was dead for 3 days, was raised from the dead and was living. People saw him, and then he ascended back into heaven.
Well, he reemerged into non-physical, and since life is eternal and there is no death.
What were the reality that he did come back from the dead? Did that happen? Was there a human being named Jesus that was here on planet Earth that was so in alignment that defied the laws of physics?
If he had been so in alignment that it defied the laws of physics, they wouldn't have put him on the cross.
Absolutely.
But he...
See, if he actually would listen to me, then he would have stayed in the vortex and he would have never been crucified. The problem is he got out of the vortex.
It was not different than all of that you've said. He was not trying to live your life for you. He reemerged into non-physical, showing you the way. We don't want you to go back 20 years.
I'm only 30.
You can imagine how we feel about that whole scenario. But the reason that we wanted to chew with you about it just a little bit is because what Esther has noticed, because Esther did not accept a religious basis or background, although it was swirling around her. what she has noticed.
Esther is the woman who, quote unquote, is channeling Abraham Hicks right now. If you guys don't know, her name is Esther. Remember when we looked at the Wikipedia page? Her name is Esther Hicks. And Abraham, the entity that she's channeling, chose her because she didn't have all the baggage of religious doctrines in her mind.
Noticed as she is now listening through the ears of Abraham, she can find pieces in all religions that she understands that make perfect sense.
I see all the puzzles coming together when I look through the eyes of Source and these teachings back at what I know to be the distorted truth.
And we think that the thing that is most discordant to you is the idea that someone else was doing something for you because you either couldn't do it for yourself or shouldn't do it for yourself. That's the part that rubs you in the wrongest way. And the reason is because there was nothing even close to that was happening. But man's distortion, here's the way that we like to, in a sort of fun and easy nutshell, explain so much of that conversation. You join the group, the human race, to have success. And the success that you're looking for is joy. And so in talking with the people who surround you, you either through asking questions or them through assuming your questions, it is said to most of you in some form that if you want to join our group, meaning their religion, then you must keep these rules. You must do these things and you must not do those things. Because it sounds like a good idea, because you want to be part of a joyful group and you want to do what's good, then you start living your life within the confines of the group, and then you begin to notice that some of them are thriving who you know are breaking the rules.
Okay, I can't listen to much more. We're going to wind down the stream with a remote viewer who claims that they actually know what happened during the crucifixion. So again, shout out to Melanie. Major thank you for sponsoring today's stream. Your document was absolutely fantastic. There's so many more channelers that she listed. James Padgett, Jay-Z Knight, Theosophy books, channeled books that she brought up, all types of stuff. But the one thing I want to leave with you is a remote viewer who claims that he can remote view and know exactly what happened at the crucifixion. Oh, crap. I forget where all the...
Seth, now only as a matter of historical record to account for why I thought of starting this project in the first place. My own exposure to Seth was a bit late in the game, especially given my interest in non-local consciousness and remote viewing. Second type of feedback, it's called post-feedback recording. This is useful to compare with the written record of the session, which of course was obtained when Daz was still blind to the target identity. Here now is a video recording of Daz describing his data for his first session, the moments leading up to the end of Jesus's physical existence.
He felt very busy. He felt like he was doing a lot of communicating. He felt very connected to other people. I felt that this connection was over vast distances. It felt like he was giving a two-way communication over this vast distance. He's also a leader, has great leadership qualities, and people recognize this and flock to him because of it. He's well liked, and I felt that he was leading a team in an endeavor during this target. And he was also a good organizer of people. He and the people around him were waiting for something. They were expectant and expectantly waiting for a situation to arise or occur. And I felt that there was a real sense of emotional pressure around this. I also...
I remote viewed back to the crucifixion, and I'll tell you what I felt. I just felt like there was tons of emotion. And I just felt like while they were whipping Christ and beating him, and the crowd was cheering, I thought, wow, there's a lot of emotional pressure. Thanks for the insight, guy. Never thought about that. That really is onto something there. Shout out to Thomas, says, hit the goal, hit the goal. Pablo Winscobar throws in 2, says, great fruitcake stream, doctor. Very entertaining. Thank you very much. Mr. Fiesta says, hit the goal for Vortex Jesus. And Mama Bear Blue says, thanks, Patrick. God bless you and Jenny. Amy, Rob. Oh, shout out to Amy. God bless you and Rob. Thank you so much for the generous support. So glad you're here. God bless you. We got multiple people from my parish. Amy and her husband, Rob, also attend my parish, just like Charles and Kendra. So we got multiple people from St. Mary of Egypt here today. Thank you guys so much. And Amy, thank you for the generous support. God bless you and the family. Really appreciate it. And then Ray Nishnad Don throws in 349, says, modern new heresy, Vortex prosperity. Yes, exactly. Very much the case. Very much the case. All right, let's keep going on with this remote viewer talking about what he saw, right? This has 149,000 views, by the way, people. Whatever you thought about Jesus, think again. Get ready for the most positive, uplifting, dramatic reinterpretation of Christian thought in over 2,000 years. Whoa! One based not on blind faith, like those people who call themselves Christians, but on new data, new research from the science of consciousness, where people go into their imagination and they just totally create shit up. That's what we're talking about. Understanding quantum physics. New and scientifically based replicable experimental data offer a revolutionary perspective into the facts of the crucifixion story. According to these new data, someone else was crucified instead of Jesus. Oh my gosh, did they read the Quran? Oh my gosh, that's what the Muslims believe. Moreover, Jesus willingly participated in the plan to dupe the authorities. This new revelation does not diminish Jesus or his message. Rather, it enhances and amplifies what we know of him. Whoa! Whoa! Oh my gosh, this revolutionary take is exactly what the Quran says. Wow! Wow!
Felt that the main target life is working with others as part of a team or a unit. So he was in charge, and there was this group of people working around him to achieve this goal. This all felt very reactionary in nature, and it felt like a very serious, almost work-like environment. Now, inside the mind of this target, I felt he was concerned and emotional, but I felt that this was suppressed by his need to lead and organize this group of people. Now, there was a situation involved here as well, and I felt that this situation was a surprise in some regards, but it was waited for and it was expected. The situation would affect many people. There is a worrying concern by those watching and waiting, and there's also hope. It feels like a global event or a big event that is going to occur, and it felt emotional for those waiting for it to happen. And there was also an element of surprise.
Thank you very much, Brady Harvey. You guys are going to let these people out-grift me? What? If you don't send in super chats, Brady Harvey says he's going to remote view into y'all's bank accounts and give it to me. So, you know, just letting you know. I mean, right now we're listening to a remote viewer that went back to the crucifixion, is telling you that the Quran is correct, that Jesus really slipped away from the authorities and they put another man on the cross. Thank you very much, Brady. Thank you so much for the support, brother. You and Austin DeTulio, God bless you guys. Quran scientific miracles must be true. If the goal ain't hit, then the wine mom theologians win. Thank you guys so much. God bless you guys. I love you guys so much. The people who come here. Pablo Winscobar says, one more for the alien vortex Yeshua goal, 100,000 gigahertz. Yeah, if you're not vibrating at 100,000 gigahertz, you're gonna miss the vortex completely, guys. You won't even be in the vortex. You won't even be in the same neighborhood as the vortex. Okay? If you're just hovering about a measly, 600, 700 gigahertz, you're not even there. Do you not even listen to me? Do you not even listen to the channeled entities I'm telling you about? Can't let the wine moms win, guys.
Or surprise at something unexpected and what's going to happen. And I guess this might have something to do with the scale of it or the size of it, but I'm not 100% sure on that part. It also feels like a group was waiting for information to come in, which they would then respond to, and then they would make a big decision.
Well, as you can see, these data suggest that...
Well, as you can see from our man from the UK who did the remote viewing, Jesus wasn't on the cross. It was a very intense situation with a lot of emotional pressure. This conclusive and non-verifiable scientific method in which people get in altered states of consciousness and claim to transport toward previous historic periods is a revolutionary scientific procedure that we at Far Side YouTube channel are issuing for the very first time in human history. You'll never, ever hear this stuff again. Do you want to hear what our remote viewer has to say about Judas? No.
that would act to propel his intended message throughout humanity's evolution for the next 2 millennia. The crucifixion was a ruse, and Jesus fully participated in it. But questions remain. If Jesus was not crucified on the cross, then who was? And why would Jesus so thoroughly participate in such a ruse? What does this say about Jesus as a person and as an advanced being? Before we address these questions, let's find out more about the person who actually was crucified. Now we move to the final target of this project. For this target, the remote viewer is to locate and describe the person whom the authorities presumed to be Jesus when they arrested and killed him. The viewer is to locate this person at the time of his death. We have 2 goals with this target. First, we want to confirm that the person crucified was not the historical Jesus, who so charismatically led his followers. This allows us to obtain data that corroborates the data for the last target, target number 5. But second, we want to know more about the person who was crucified. Was he really profoundly deluded, as Seth suggests, so disturbed that today we might consider him mentally ill? Let's look at what the remote viewer found out.
Okay, guys, are you ready for this scientifically verifiable? Oh, wait, no, it's just subjective remote viewing. Oh, crap. Well, are you guys ready for the new theory that Jesus wasn't on the cross? No, we didn't read the Quran. No. We're not just adopting the Muslim myth. No, this is through remote viewing. Let me tell you about the scientific evidence that we found.
For this target, the remote viewer clearly finds a male target subject who is suffering. The location of the target subject is in a remote, rocky, and arid environment with a desolate landscape like a desert.
Can you imagine that? There's a desert in the Middle East. That's what our remote viewer just found. And you know what? We looked at the climate, the geological events of that historic period, and lo and behold, there was a desert there. That just verifies the remote viewing.
The target subject has retreated inside his mind, and he is not talking. He feels trapped, as if by accident. It is an unhealthy...
Austin Graham, exactly. Let's presume it wasn't Jesus, so when we tap into our imagination, we can confirm it wasn't Jesus. Exactly. It's exactly what they're doing right now.
An unhappy situation that makes him feel afraid. He feels abandoned, alone, and very exposed to the elements of nature. Then the viewer states that the target subject gives him the feeling of someone who is mentally ill. It is almost as if he has been brainwashed, and it somehow got him into an adventure that went terribly wrong. Moreover, he was purposefully chosen for this.
Our remote viewer tells us that MKUltra did not begin in the 1950s. In fact, the research regarding the Manchurian Candidate and the psychological programming individuals we found through our remote viewing occurred at the crucifixion of Christ, and that he, to lead his people, chose a mentally ill man who was conditioned to portray that he was Jesus of Nazareth to die on the cross. This is, according to their description, the new science and a revolutionary take on the crucifixion.
Let's now hear how Daz Smith himself describes his perceptions of this target and of the person who actually was nailed to the cross on that unhappy day.
It has land, which I feel is uneven and jagged. This feels peaked in places and hard. It feels very rough, very dry.
When I remote reviewed, I realized that they didn't have cement and paved roads. The land was jagged. It was dirt. It was so dirty that there was multiple different languages being spoken, and that it was so hot. It was very, very hot.
Yeah, and I get a sense of sand being involved as well, very gritty in the location. There's a lot of open space. There's a lot of skies as well. As I said, it's very natural. I can see a vast landscape around it. Lots of unspoiled kind of, I'd say countryside, but unspoiled landscape would be the right word. And I had AOLs of Africa with this because it felt hot, dry, that kind of thing, foreign to me. Okay, and then there's a life form involved as per the targets. I felt the life form here was male again. He was quiet and he was reserved. I felt that this life wasn't talking.
I saw this man, and I realized that his favorite color was blue, and he didn't really speak a lot. He just sat there quietly. Was very reserved. He seemed like he was in deep reflection, and I thought, wow, what a tormented soul this man must be.
He feels very shut off, and I feel that this was done on purpose by him. I sense that he's emotionally.
Hey, Richie throws in 5, says, hi, I'm new here. Welcome, Richie. Glad that you're here, brother. Welcome. We are having a little bit of fun mocking people who believe in the alien savior myth and talking about different understandings of Christ. And we're ending right now on a man who claims to have remote viewed the crucifixion and is coming with new revolutionary details.
He retreated inside of his head or mind, and it feels like he's almost forced this solitude upon himself. This definitely feels like a life form that's hiding something, and he's not wanting to reveal it. And I had AOLs of being intimidated in this. Now, when I asked what was wrong, I just felt that the life form was very unhappy, and he feels trapped in a situation. It's an unhealthy situation, which is forcing him to become reserved and afraid. The life form is definitely retreated inside himself. He's very.
He said he's retreated in his mind like 5 times. It was a very unhealthy situation. I felt like he was from a lower class, and he wasn't able to get the latest iPod, and he just felt so discouraged by the wealth and the financial success of the individuals around him, and he just cowered away from stating his opinion. Guys, 3 minutes. We're down to 3 minutes left. 6 more super chats, and I will scream goal as long as I can for your guys' satisfaction and entertainment if you help me reach my goal of 20 today. We are now at, thank you so much. Austin Graham just threw in $5. We just need 5 more, and I will scream goal like Lionel Messi just scored the game-winning goal for the World Cup. I will do that for your guys' satisfaction. But that's only if we reach the goal. We're 5 super chats away. We're down to 3 minutes. The challenge is yours. Austin DeTulio just throws in 5 more. We're down to 4 super chats. 4 super chats. And I will make a mockery of myself and humiliate myself live on YouTube so that you guys can get some type of satisfaction and mock me for the continuation of this YouTube channel. Suffer not the Xeno to live. Thank you, Thomas. God bless you. We need 3 more. We're down to 2 minutes. You guys hit the goal. I'm going to dominate Jim Bob. Dominate Jim Bob, and who can say goal the longest? I promise you that. 3 more super chats away. 2 minutes left. It's up to you. Are you guys going to get in the vortex? Are you guys going to get into the vortex? We just listened to Abraham Hicks, guys. Are you in the vortex or are you not? Because I'm starting to think you guys aren't in the vortex. Mr. Fiesta says, come on, people. We are now down. We are 1 super chat away from completing today's goal. Eric Vigilant throws in $5. No comment. Thank you so much, Eric. God bless you, brother. We are 1 super chat away. We are down to 1 minute. There it is. The goal has been reached. The goal has been accomplished. We have just reached 20 super chats. Goal achieved. Here we go. All right. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to use Viportho. Here we go. Let me get a deep breath. I couldn't even make it. Last time we did this, I couldn't even make it through it without laughing. So I'm going to do my best. We are going to dominate. We're going to put Jim Bob to shame. Next time he tries to yell goal, he will never live up to what's getting ready to happen right now. We just did it. We just did it. And I think I still had some air left. I think if this was truly a head-to-head competition with Jim Bob, we would dominate. Because I wouldn't stop until I passed out. Yes, was anyone timing that? Jessica's asking good questions. This is hard. These are hard-hitting questions right now. Yeah. I was definitely in the vortex for lasting, though. One day, I'm going to go head-to-head with Jim Bob and see who does it longer. Thank you guys so much. Seriously, without trying to be humorous, thank you guys so much for the support. I truly, truly appreciate it. I love you guys. And I just really, really appreciate that you guys are here. You're supporting the work, and the fact that you guys are willing to invest in me and my work. I truly, truly do appreciate it, and I love you guys. Thank you very, very much. That's right. Let the word spread. Jim Bob's cooked. Jim Bob is cooked. Jim Bob's days are numbered from this point forward. Now you need Zulu drums and an elephant. Now you got to compete with Jim Bob for best Ben Shapiro. Jim Bob's got me beat there. Jim Bob's good. Jim Bob's good at impressions. Look, I know my role. I stay in my place. Doing impressions, Jim Bob's got me there. But when it comes to goal, when it comes to the celebration of the accomplishment of goals, yeah, Jim Bob, get wrecked. Get wrecked, bro. Come on. You can't compete. Yeah, 40 seconds clipped. I'm going to break a minute next time. Next time, RIP, next time we break a goal, I am going over 1 minute. I'm going over 1 minute. It's a fact. You heard it here first. This is breaking news. Gray Sun says Yakubian war cry activated. I'm going to spend hours every night. My wife's going to love it. I'm just going to practice yelling goal for as long as I can. Then compete with Jay for best soy face. Tell Jim Bob I'm coming for him. If he thinks he can match me in goal, it's not even a competition. All right, let's finish up this stream, guys. I got to get off here pretty soon. We're going to listen to this nonsense from this remote viewer talking about switching out. Yeah, poor Jenny. I'm telling you, if I go head to head with Jim Bob, I'm not stopping until I pass out. Either he stops and I win, or I pass out and I win by commitment. Oh, God.
You're very scared and very afraid. And this feels like a very unhealthy situation. I get a great sense of being alone, or aloneness and abandonment. And this generates quite a lot of AOLs for me of being mentally ill. So, as an overview, it's definitely an unhealthy situation.
It almost sounds like he's describing himself. He went into remote viewing and he saw himself. He's like, the man is clearly mentally ill, and he really doesn't know what he's talking about. He looks like he's very reserved. His mind is a mess, and when you look into his eyes, it looks like there's a hollow nothingness there. It's like, bro, you're staring at the mirror right now. I recommend just getting a checkup. So anyways, guys, that is going to do it. That was the last video I had for you guys, was the remote viewer telling you that, you know, Jesus didn't actually die on the cross. This is revolutionary. No, it's in the Quran. And then the groundbreaking evidence that hundreds of thousands of people went to go watch was him saying, yeah, he was a very reserved man. The ground was uneven. There was a desert. It was hot. Like, this is literally the level that these people deal with. So, thank you all for being here. This was a bit of a whirlwind of a stream. We learned a lot of stuff today. We learned that Jesus was half Anunnaki, half from the star planet Sirius. We learned that no, actually he's a Pleiadian. No, actually he's from the planet Huvid, and he's of a Huva bloodline. We found that Mary was actually born of a virgin, and that she was from she's a Pleiadian, and that Joseph was actually from the star system Sirius, and that's Jesus is actually part Sirius, part Pleiadian. What else did we find out? We found out that Jesus is the leader of the Galactic Federation, and that he had come here to show you the ascended ways of the ascended masters, and that everything that Christianity says is false because those are institutions created by man. That's what we found that out as well. We found out that a lot of these people have mental illness. About half of them claim they were contacted by aliens when they're in their adolescence or early adulthood. So we found out a lot of stuff. We found out these people are batshit crazy, and that the narrative that's going to be put forth. And again, since the Biden administration, well, really since 2020, right? Wasn't it? It was during COVID, during the lockdowns, that what was it? The Pentagon released like some grainy image of a UFO. And ever since, we've been seeing these small little crumbs come out of the intelligence agencies and the Pentagon and the U.S. government saying, oh, no, UFOs are real. The aliens are here. And from an Orthodox Christian perspective, yeah, this phenomenon where the ancient aliens, we looked about Zachariah Sitchin. We looked at Eric von Daniken. And the only thing that we would agree with is, yeah, this phenomenon of astral sightings and aerial sightings and UFOs and contactees, this is an ancient phenomenon because the demons have always been here. And we also realize that much of all this stuff is totally unfalsifiable and also unprovable. And so all this stuff is sort of relegated into this unique realm of online discourse and spiritual seeking, in which people create these entire fantasy systems of cosmology, galactic federations, all these different races and ethnicities of aliens, Jesus being part of certain groups. And yet you can't prove and you can't falsify any of it because it's all just a fantasy. It's a science fiction book. It's a science fiction narrative. So I think for us Orthodox Christians, the things that we need to keep our eyes on is that this alien stuff, I think, is going to continue. I suspect that even Jesus was an alien mythology, it's going to become more popular because as the government releases this stuff, as transhumanism, the technocracy advances, it's going to set the presuppositions, as we already showed, that all these worldviews are built upon the Anunnaki myth, the chariot of the gods myth. And it's all rooted in, and when I was talking about the variations of channeled messages, beginning with the Fox sisters in the into the 19th century, mid 19th century, like their 1840s, the whole world was enamored with ether and electricity and telegrams, and then that colored the whole spiritual milieu of spiritualism. And then once it started to move into post World War II, with advanced technology, all this different stuff, especially with Roswell in the 1940s, all of a sudden, all the same same people are interested in all this channeling and this theosophic reimagining of the ascended masters. What happens? Their whole message gets turned, and now it's aliens, it's technology, it's spacecraft. And so you see how the cultural context, the historic context of these channelers, no matter what age they're in, it could be the Oracle at Delphi or Abraham Hicks or Bashar, Daryl Inca, they always color it with the things that you take for granted as true. And so they use science, they use technology, they use your emotional status. And, oh, are you suffering? Well, then, sweetheart, you're just not in the vortex. You got to align your thoughts and your emotions so that you draw this stuff to you. You're not a millionaire? Well, girlfriend, you just don't believe you're a millionaire yet. And so it then feeds back. You find all these women and all these young men that are being part of this stuff. And if you're not getting what you want, then you're just not doing it right. So you need to pay another $300 for my Vortex course. And then Abraham Hicks will tell you, okay, this is what you're doing. Oh, you're still not getting what you want? Well, just give me more money and then I'll help you. And this whole thing is just fake. It's astroturfed. As we saw with Bob Lazar, I think Bob Lazar was an intelligent asset, but you saw Bob Lazar, what was it, the 1970s or 80s? He's saying, oh yeah, I saw this classified document. It's the most classified document on UFOs. And what's it about? It's about religion. And it says that aliens created all the religions and they genetically engineered human. What? Why would? No, dude, no. And if I remember right, didn't Bob Lazar set up a honey trap at at a brothel in Vegas or something, or somewhere in Nevada? I can't remember the details, but I thought Bob Lazar. I thought he was working with intelligence agents to actually honeypot other police officers and FBI agents and stuff like that at a brothel in Nevada. So you see that I wouldn't be surprised if Abraham Hicks and Bashar and half the people we cover today are intelligent assets, because what does this do? Everything we saw today says Jesus is not God. Every single person, no matter whether he's a Pleiadian or he's from Sirius or he's Anunnaki or he's from Draco. One person said he's from Draco. Doesn't matter. What's the common theme of every single person we looked at today is that Jesus is not God incarnate. Jesus is not God. Jesus is an ascended master. Jesus is just like you and me, and Jesus is trying to show you who you can be. And so don't fall for this. Anybody watching my channel is not going to fall for it, but The Collins brothers were here. Oh, I didn't even see the Collins brothers were here. I love the Collins brothers. Those guys are absolutely fantastic. I need to do another stream with the Collins brothers. We need to do a new stream on everything that's going on right now. I love the Collins brothers. Shout out to the Collins brothers. Go buy their books. Major appreciation for the work of the Collins brothers. Those guys are fantastic. I did not know they were in the chat today. Yakubian brothers rise up. So thank you guys for being here. Major thank you to Melanie for sponsoring today's stream. And Melanie, thank you for the incredible document you sent me. Half the people you sent me I had never even heard of, and there'd been no way I would have found all the material you provided today without your help. So thank you very much for everything you did. And God bless you guys. And thank you very much for everybody who supported today. Shout out to St. Mary of Egypt, my church in Greenwood. We had multiple people from the parish in the live chat today, and love you guys as well. And I love my parish, love my community, and God bless you all. And I will see you all in the next one. Smash that like. And as always, until then, God bless.